So thank you everyone for joining us. Amazing morning where we're going to engage with you, educate you about Gen Z, but also it's all about Gen Z. So our Gen Z, who are phenomenal, and over the last few years they've been knocked a lot, and there's a whole campaign actually about the COVID crisis and how much that has affected our young people. And I think we need to understand that they need to be nurtured, mentored, supported, trained, and been given opportunities like this. So you have an amazing host today. I'm going to move off the stage because she's just fabulous. She's one of our ambassadors. I'm extremely proud of her, and I wouldn't have been able to make this happen without her. So Sadia, please welcome to the stage.
You put me on the spot now. I feel really nervous. Hello everyone, my name is Sadia, and like Lisa mentioned, I'm very, very grateful to be supporting DigiLearning as an ambassador. So I'm gonna kind of save time, and I'll speak more about, myself and what I do later on. But I'll introduce our panelists. So we have firstly Romario, who's already on the stage. I'm gonna actually hand over the mic to you guys later on, and I think you can share more about your roles and what you do, because there's so many of you guys today. I couldn't memorize all of your bios. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ben from. Oh, actually, I started with the wrong panelist. He wasn't ready. I'm gonna hand it over to Sabrina. Can you come on stage? Yeah. And then we have Eleanor. Now, Ben, are you ready to come now? And last but not least, Christine. Right, so I'm going to hand over the mic to you guys, and you can share more about your job titles and your companies, if that's okay. Yeah, and then Romario, you can kickstart with the questions straight away. All right? Sabrina.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sabrina, and I am head of talent for a company called Captify. We are a search intelligence company and in the thick of the ad tech space.
Morning, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for coming. So I'm Eleanor. I sit within Accenture Financial Services practice in banking in our London office. Obviously, Accenture is the largest tech consulting in the world. And now I'll hand over to you, Ben.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ben Williams. I'm founder and managing director of Kiln, and we are a technology agency that's focused on the media sector. And I'm also a trustee of DigiLearning, working with Lisa on the governance of the charity.
Oh, have a mic. There you go. Oh, hello everyone. Thank you again for having me. I also work with Accenture together with Elena. We are in the same practice, which is banking. We finally work with mostly implementation and transformation on tech of modernization of specific financial services. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. So, hello everyone. Thank you, Sadia, for the amazing introduction. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Romario Ellis. I'm a former data science degree apprentice, now turned full-time business owner of my own business called Outer Circle in the tech space. So, really, really interested to hear everyone's opinions on AI and the emerging tech opportunities. So, yeah, to kickstart today's panel, we'll be diving into how AI and future tech are changing the career landscapes and how to prepare and thrive, really, in these constantly dynamic and changing environments. So if we can kickstart the panel by diving into a few questions and discussions, it would be really great to hear your perspectives. What are the most promising career opportunities emerging within the AI and future tech industries? I'm going to, Ben, if I could put you on the spot for that one.
Everyone was looking at me then. I was like, okay, I'm on the spot here. So I kind of break it down, technology projects into 4 tracks. So you've got engineering, product management, program management, and design. And that's kind of like, that really won't change for a while. So whether there was AI or no AI. So I kind of look at those 4 tracks. So there's very technologically sort of heavy roles like engineering. So if you are interested in engineering as a career track, and AI obviously is going to be an important part of technological growth, then look at modern languages like Python and so on and so forth, and you can research C++, Java. These are the founding sort of languages for AI. But then there's non-technical roles as well. So it's more about sort of understanding the business applications of AI to business challenges right now. So I'm working with Lisa on offering up work experience to digital learning for the non-technical roles because they're actually easier to onboard. We will do engineering at some point, but I'm particularly interested in looking at people who are interested in business development, product management and program management. And it's more about understanding the use cases for AI in my space in media, but then also understanding the big technology platforms, whether it's chip makers like NVIDIA, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic, these companies that have the big large language model applications, and starting to understand what the use cases are for integrating these technologies. And that's why I'm offering work experience up, so people can get live experience of that. Yep.
Amazing. Has anyone else got anything to add to that?
Thank you, Van. So totally agree. I think there will be lots of kind of sort of purist technology-focused careers where you will need a lot of LLM experts, full-stack developers, different kind of AI architects, infrastructure architecture, cybersecurity. But totally agree with you, Ben. Business application kind of sort of value enablers, not really a profession, but that's how I'm going to refer to this type of careers, is going to be very important. And we need a lot of people who understand the business side of things, but also very conversant in the technology, so they can merge the two worlds together. And I think, obviously, we talk a lot about the opportunities of AI, but we also know that there are threats. And we talk now more and more about the responsible side of things, the ethical sides of AI, and that's also going to have lots of interesting career opportunities for people. I think we shouldn't forget about, obviously, responsible AI will mean lots of demand in legal profession and regulation world, and again, that's going to be different depending on the applied industry. And last but not least, I think there will be lots of exciting still careers in academia and research for those who want to kind of stay in that professional field.
Perfect. All right, so this is going to be catered to more the young professionals and the graduates in the room, but how can they best prepare for roles in these rapidly evolving fields?
So it's a difficult and competitive world. I often get hundreds of applications for many of the roles that I advertise, and it's really difficult, and quite overwhelming to go through each one. So I would recommend that you do a lot of research. So the people that usually get through to phone screen are the people that have knocked on my door on LinkedIn, who connect with me on LinkedIn, who send me a little message to say, hey, by the way, I've sent you an application, what do you think? So it's those people that have got that brand presence. It's really important to get yourself out there and to really do a lot of research on who's who in the company and connect with the right people.
I totally agree with you. I think on my experience, I think for me, since I have a very non-technical role and things are keep on evolving, what I normally do is really, as you said, network. But I think the important thing is really the immersion, getting yourself out there. I think attending this kind of event is also key. Similarly, if there's an opportunity for you to do internship to other company, to have a hands-on experience, that's also key. And then, of course, continuous learning. If there's no opportunity right now, there's also a lot of platform online that you can actually use and leverage so that you can learn continuously. Because there are always going to be small company out there that's really looking for raw talent to really provide them new or rawness or creativity for their specific value. But yeah, that's it.
Amazing. So this is a bit of a double whammy question. So we're going to start off with the first part. What specific skills and knowledge are most in demand for future tech careers? Ben, I'm going to pick you again.
With the projects that I'm looking at that have an AI sort of twist to it, a lot of them essentially AI projects are essentially data projects. So the skill sets that are becoming more and more in demand are essentially data science. And again, what I would say to young people in the room who are kind of starting out, some people may be more analytical sort of focused, but some people may be more design focused. So kind of like go with where your passion is. But if you're analytical, then yeah, start to look at some of the sort of beefing up on your data science skills, and maybe even sort of learn Python or some sort of programming skills that can complement that too. But it's all about processing large swathes of data, you know. So yeah, data science is cool. But also, let's not forget what relatively soft skills, business development, you know, marketplaces need to be connected. So good sales people are going to be required to kind of wire up the next landscape. So yeah, whether you're analytical or more kind of soft skills, business oriented, there's lots of roles out there. But you know, get your hands into the platforms, get yourself pro licenses to one or two of the big LLMs. I love Claude.ai, which is an Anthropic business. You know, you might want to get a pro license to, and just get in and just see what the capabilities of these platforms are. And then just final point, look for any sort of like free accreditations or online distance learning stuff. I did something with Duke University at the start of the year, AI for products management. I found that really helpful. You know, stay on top of things with academia as well. Yeah.
And to the point where you don't have to be technical to fully use AI. Like for me, you know, I've tried to be technical. It's the most exhausting thing in the world for me. I absolutely cannot stand Excel and all that jazz, but I'm more creative and I love creating presentations, and I've used AI to enhance that skill and that passion of mine. I'm now a fully fledged professional video editor. I don't know if anyone has used Canva here in the room, but it is amazing. So you can really use that kind of stuff to enhance what you're passionate about and bring it to the table.
I think, echoing everything you guys said, data is important. Understanding data, data-driven decisions is very important. You don't have to be data scientists to know data. Actually, rather, everyone needs to understand how it works. And everyone, I think, irrespective of how technical your career track is, needs to understand AI fundamentals. And a lot of these technologies now, as you said, Ben, is very accessible. So all of us need to be more curious and play with it so that we can understand it more. Maybe a couple of other things I'll just throw in again. I'm going to bang on about responsible AI here. I think I should say for sort of more technically focused people, agentic architecture is becoming a big thing, which is sort of when you have, you know, multiple agents and how they are orchestrated with a minimum need for intervention from humans to solve, I don't know, a particular problem. And I guess the other one people talking quite a lot about now is the green AI as well. So, but if you don't want to be super technically focused, learn more about the industry you would like to apply the tech.
No, I just wanted to sum up everyone have said. I think key things for me that I always read is every company is a data company. So every company that you inspire for, they're always going to be data, and being kind of knowledgeable of data, how you kind of use it to produce some value is really key as well. I think Elena is quite key to responsible AI and sustainability. But for me, I wanted to point as well the kind of importance of security, because as data become more kind of available everywhere because of the use of Gen AI, it's also kind of a kind of upcoming emerging opportunities to have some security engineers, because that's one of the things that I've really experienced on the project that I am. We really need some kind of security consultants who know what are the guardrails that needs to be incorporated to make sure that the data that the people or customer have entrusted us is safe. yeah, that's it.
Amazing. So I think this has been called out already in terms of ethical implications of AI. But would you mind just sharing a bit more of how young professionals can really navigate that aspect of these, ethical and, negative or positive implications of that it involves, basically? I would pick on Ben, but I think I'm doing that a bit too much now. So.
I think, yeah, so like as it relates to ethical AI, I mean, one of the things I'm really interested at the moment is how AI can improve greenhouse gas emissions for media. So there's like really lovely responsible applications of AI for some major sort of societal issues that our industry faces. I think with ethics, for me, I worked at Apple twice, so I've kind of got ethics sort of like hard baked into me. But that's not the case for everyone. And what I would say to people is there's a couple of things. One, I'm helping trying to build stuff for the next generation that's coming through, right? So everyone's trying to pay it forward to the next generation. So Gen X will pay forward, Gen Z will pay forward to alphas and so on and so forth. So there's that piece that needs to be within us all. But then I think, the sort of companies that you're working for, that you're applying for, just check them out. Just check if they've got what their Scope 3 score is. Check how, have they had any negative press about any poor ethic decisions that they've made as an organisation. And if that's the case, if anything's coming up in your research which points towards the fact that there's been some bad behaviour from them in the past, maybe sort of err on caution about joining them, because if you're going to join an organisation, usually these are organisations that have either 100 or 100,000 people working within them, so they're big organisations. So yeah, check their reputation and how they are approaching ethics. Do they have an ethics guidelines policy for AI? A lot of the companies that I'm working with at the moment are currently setting up their AI ethics and their governance boards. So it's happening. So maybe in the interview process, ask the question, do you have an AI ethics board? How do you approach governance for AI across your organisation? And just use that into your decision making about whether you'd want to go and work for that organisation in the future.
Maybe, are we...
I've got another question to ask, actually.
Okay.
In terms of, not everyone in the audience is necessarily technical or wants to be technical, as you called out. And we've called this out already, but how can non-technical individuals really leverage AI and future tech in their career paths in the future?
So, like I said before, I have a really human role, if you like, and I do use AI tools to help enhance, my day-to-day at work. ChatGPT is one of them. I'm sure you all know about ChatGPT. So what I would say when you're using ChatGPT, especially if you're applying for a role, don't let ChatGPT answer the question for you, because it completely strips you of your personality. It doesn't not know who you are. And I can always tell when somebody's used ChatGPT. It uses really dramatic words like spearheaded and fostering, and they are just not words that you would use in your day-to-day. So be very mindful of it. Just use it as a soundboard. Don't use it to answer the questions. I'm actually studying a HR qualification at the moment, and when I'm doing my assessment, I'll write out my answers, I'll do my research, I'll do everything that I need to do to answer the assessment correctly, but then I'll use ChatGPT as a little soundboard. But more often than not, I actually go back to my original answer that I had, because the thing that it's come back with is just not me. So be very mindful being your true, authentic self when you're using AI.
So I'm from a non-technical background. I normally do project management, implementation management as well. So I think, as she said, it really is using this latest technologies, this AI. It could be Gen AI, blockchain, other bits, into like having them as a companion or like a co-pilot on your everyday work, but not taking them as a face value, because you always can. They probably is a good as like a draft, and then you kind of creatively add in the personalized version of yourself on those kind of outcome for that specific like generated text or images. Because it's important as well to kind of, Because I think what makes you unique to every like company to apply for is your unique self. And if you kind of use just the face value of the outcome of this AI generated text, it would not really kind of give the company the uniqueness of your talent and your personality. Yeah.
Perfect. I think everyone was smiling in the room when we talked about ChatGPT. You've seen that LinkedIn post where it's using very very glamorizing words. So 100%. I mean, the follow-up question to that is, what role does continuous learning play in staying relevant in the tech-driven job markets?
So the concept of continuous learning existed for decades, right? We heard that before. I think people started talking about it in the 70s, if not before. But with the advancement of technology, things became very important to learn and have the continuous growth mindset. The speed with which the modern technology is developing is kind of very scary, and staying on top of that is very important. Actually, a few months ago, I asked someone a question: what is a good course out there if you want to learn about AI? And the answer I received: well, if it's out there written, it's old news. That's obviously not to put us all off and just say there's no point, we're never going to catch on. But it's to highlight that every day something new is going to appear, and we need to do our best to stay on top of it. It's very important to stay relevant, to be able to adapt to changing conditions of the market and of the technology. So I think the key is to be disciplined about it, and because even 15 minutes of learning a day is better than nothing. So find what works for you.
I'll just add to that. I mean, obviously there's just so much information out there now. It can be a bit overwhelming, and I'd just recommend getting a mentor and a guide through all of to help curate the information that's out there. And I offer myself up as a mentor through digital learning. So if anyone in the room wants to take me up on that, please contact through Lisa. And I have a mentor, and he's based in the US, and he guides me. I've actually got a call with him on Friday. So getting a guide to help kind of go, actually, of these 10 things, I'd recommend these 3 actually, and then deprioritize those 3 based on your profile and where you want to go. That's probably going to give you more bang for buck. And then, the continuous learning, I think it's great to get it from live projects. That's where I get my continuous learning from now. But I still have to go back into academia, and I still have to go back to my mentors to just make sure that my knowledge is correct. Don't mark your own homework. It's good to have a mentor that will give you that honest external perspective on your sort of knowledge development in this space.
100%, and I think it can become very overwhelming when you don't have that soundboard. So 100%. Perfect. So that just about wraps up this session. Can we give the panel a round of applause for the amazing session? Amazing. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass over to Sadia now.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. That was such an insightful session, and thank you, Romario, as well, for hosting that session for us. Okay, we're going to switch up really, really quickly and get into the next session. Thanks again. Thank you. So very swiftly, I'm going to firstly get our host, Jonathan Reed from Purpose Led and Re-Identify. You can just get this mic, yeah. Wherever you can pick what seat. Yeah, of course. Okay, and then I'm going to call up, I'm going to try and see the order. In no particular order, Chloe, she's ready to go. And welcome to everyone that's joining us as well. And then VJ from VaynerMedia. Amazing. And Shanaz, thank you. Sorry about that. I think that's it. That's our panel, right? I haven't missed anybody. Okay, Jonathan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hello, everybody. How are we all doing today? Let me hear you say, I'm doing good. Okay, thank you very much. Right, hello everybody. My name is Jonathan Reed. Nice to meet you all. I run a B2B podcast agency, but today is not about me. Today is about the panel and the lovely people in the room. Everybody, give me a smile. A big teeth smile. A big teeth smile. Let me see it. Yeah, lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. All right, so today we're going to get started off with you guys and who you are. Chloe, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. The energy today, immaculate. Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
here for it. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well done on coming bright and early today. So I'm Chloe.
Wait, everyone say hi, Chloe.
Hi.
There we go.
Hi, guys. What's up? Okay. So by day, I work at TikTok as a global business marketing executive. By night, I do digital content creation and presenting, but I am on a mission to empower Gen Z women of color to achieve visibility in the workplace and have agency over your career through the power of storytelling, networking, and a strong personal brand. So everything that was said beforehand by Sabrina and by Christine in the previous panel is just like so on point with brand presence, and I'm very excited to share the stage with both VJ, Shanaz, and Jonathan as well to talk about this.
Amazing. Give her a round of applause. And another thing that she has not said, she's been featured on Forbes. Say, ooh. Yeah. Yes, I did my research. I did it yesterday. Yeah, man. VJ, would you like to introduce yourself?
Cool. My name is Vijay. I am the ECD for VaynerMedia. If you don't know, Vayner is owned by Gary Vaynerchuk. Yes, he's my boss for the last 5 years. And I come from Malaysia, so I'm new to London. So I've started off as a web designer for first 5-6 years, and then I got bored of coding and designing. And then I looked at a TV commercial and I was like, oh, fuck, that's quite easy. That's quite simple to do, right? You just think of an idea and someone actually shoots it for you. That's a lot. That's easier than coding and designing websites. So I joined advertising, and fun fact, from joining advertising for the last 17, 18 years, I've never looked for a job. The job always looked for me. That's, we'll get into that. That's quite interesting, right? And maybe I'll give some tips and tricks on how you can do the same as well. So then, I've been in Malaysia, then won a ton of awards, all my Cannes Lion and stuff like that. Got bored of advertising, went to a tech company, and then one of my music videos that I did in the tech company went viral, and someone sent it to Gary, and Gary approached me, and that's how I got the job at VaynerMedia, and I was the head of APAC for 3 years. And then he asked me, what can I do to keep you here for 10 years? I said, I want to travel the world, and he moved me here. So now it's been, 15 months now here? So it's fun.
Wow.
So I'm kind of new
Round of
to
applause.
this region. Shanaz.
Amazing. Shanaz.
Amazing, welcome. So hello everyone, I'm Shanaz Ahmed. I'm the Creative and Innovation Director at Social Element. Social Element is a social media agency, and we're on a mission to make social better for everyone. It's a campaign we've just launched recently. You'll see all of our ads out here in Madfest. My career history, I've been in the industry for about 18 years now. Previously to here, I worked at Meta for 5 years as a creative strategist. I love social. It's why I went to work at the biggest social platform in the world, learning all about how to be creative on there. But previously to that, I worked at an agency called Liberty. Don't know if anyone's heard of the agency. They're a youth-led creative agency. Another space I love is working with young people, ensuring that we're sort of bringing people up, mainly because I see myself in a lot of young people, and also further to what Cara was saying, don't really see many people that look like myself. So ensuring that I get myself in front of people so that people can come along and lead the industry alongside us as well. So yeah, really excited to talk about how to use social media to further your career and bag your dream jobs and your dream clients as well.
Amazing. Give a round of applause, everyone. And Shanaz is also amazing, as everyone else on this panel is. She is a TEDx speaker. She's a TEDx speaker. Give her a round of applause again. Why not? Yeah. Okay, I've got a question for you guys. Is that all right?
Please.
I'm so glad. Okay. So question number one is, how can professionals build and showcase their personal brand on social media? Chloe, I'd like to come to you first for this.
Yeah, sure. So I think there are 3 elements to it. Think of it as like sort of like a framework that I personally follow, and I've seen a lot of like successful people around me, like both younger and older as well, kind of follow. And firstly, that's authenticity. I think we've talked about this, but in the generation of emerging AI and tech, like it's hard to pinpoint what's real and what isn't, but you can really feel someone's like authenticity very palpably when you speak to them, but also you want to showcase that online. And I feel that like, showcasing that radical vulnerability and honesty on whichever platform you choose to be on is so important. And recruiters can feel that as well. So I feel like just showing up authentically is key. And then secondly as well, it's mixing it up. So we're in MadFest, so we talk about marketing, and I think that there's an element of importance to tap into trends. I think TikTok, like, not to toot our own horn, but like we are the center point of culture and where trends happen, and so it's very easy to kind of get pulled into that and always just think like, oh, I have to be like on the Roman Empire trend or like the tube girl trend or all of these things. And I think that's important to for like traffic and reach, but also allow people to get to know you. So allow people into your day-to-day life. Like, what is it like to be a founder of like an AI company? Shout out Romario, yes. And like or like story times. Just like allow content to have an element of like relationship building with you. And then lastly, oh gosh, I'm like forgetting it. Authenticity, mix it up. Do you know? Do I got it? Do you know what? I think VJ got it. So I'm gonna pass it to you. We'll circle back to me later on.
All right. Personal branding. Okay, I don't need to tell you all personal branding is important, right? Without personal branding, no one knows what you stand for. So I think if you look at it closer, right, brands that you all like, you like it for a reason. You like it because it's funny. You like it because it's got a purpose, and that purpose ties back to you. And there's millions of people out there that are like you who like that brand because it's XXX, right? So personal branding, what is your purpose? What is your personality? What do you stand for? And use that, and like you said, right, Chloe, be true to yourself and put that out on social platforms. Then people start understanding, oh, this person is quite funny. Or this person, in my case, I like fashion, streetwear, and I don't shy away from talking about it on a professional platform like LinkedIn, because that's what I am. That's what I like, and I want people to know what I like beyond just. I don't want to sound, like a. I don't want to say like a fucking wanker, right? And go on LinkedIn and just thought leadership the whole time, because that's not me. And I'm sure that's not you as well. You always have your personal stories about something that you like. You might like instant noodles, and just talk about instant noodles, even on a professional network, right, or a platform. It doesn't matter. At least people get to see the real you. So coming back to authenticity, big authentic, right? And personal branding on platforms. What do you stand for? Like, don't be shy. Like, for me, it's not about just, I'm going to be professional. I'm only going to write about my work here. It becomes so boring because a million other people do that. What makes you different, right? So authentic is one. What makes you stand out is another one. There's a sea of million people out there on LinkedIn talking about leadership. It's so boring. So don't talk about that. Talk about how vulnerable you are. Talk about, stand out, be different, right? Be real. You don't need to be a thought leader. You can be a follower. You can be someone who's just wanting knowledge, and that puts you apart, right? So that's just my advice for this.
And just off the back of that, VJ, what you were saying about authenticity and everything like that, and differentiating yourself from other people in the market, I'd like to go to Shanaz for this. What would you say, how would you say people should walk the line between being professional and also, like being able to balance that side of being authentically them?
Yeah, that perfectly lines up to what the answer to the previous question would have been, which is, for me, the most important things is strategy and being very aware what you're using the platforms for, and differentiating potentially as well. So like further to what Vijay was saying, perhaps on LinkedIn we see a lot of people talk about their leadership and their thoughts and everything about careers, but actually mixing that up on the LinkedIn space is to talk about trainers and talk about something a little bit left field that you're not really used to seeing. Because when people are being more authentic on LinkedIn, you see a lot more engagement, and you just see a lot more people connecting with what you're saying. However, mixing that up on the other side of things, if you've got a presence on Instagram and TikTok that is very specifically for the purpose of you furthering your career in some way, then maybe it's it's best for you to not always talk about trainers there, but actually talk about your skill sets and your expertise there. So actually just being really clear what you're using the platforms for. And another thing on strategy is to have a real, give yourself enough time to really think about what it is that you're wanting to say about yourself. So I did this recently for myself. So I've had Instagram, TikTok for a long time, but it's been private. So it's things I would share with my family and friends. And I've never really used Instagram professionally. But only a few months ago, well, probably about 6 months ago, I opened a public profile. And I knew in my head that I wanted it to be my public professional persona as a creative leader in the industry. But I had to sort of sit with it for a long while. I think I had the account for about 3 months before I really understood what it is that I wanted to be on there. And then I finally got to my tagline that's on my bio now, which is your creative career bestie. I want it to be the place where you come to feel inspired, to build your portfolio, to be, if you're feeling down one day creatively, what can really bring you up? To be inspired to stay in the industry, especially what I was saying earlier, like underrepresented people in the industry, they fall off the ladder so many instances in their career. I hope that it's a space that I can build to sort of inspire people to just stay on the ladder, and that it's a really incredible place to be. But that's the kind of niche that I found for myself on Instagram and TikTok. But I had to sit with it for a little bit and be on the platform and just lurk for a little bit. So I think it's strategically give yourself the time to define it and then literally have it. So if anyone does sort of creative strategy as your job, a lot of the time for social, we come up with a role for social. It's like a one-pager, one-liner, something you could explain to your mum or your 8-year-old niece. Figure out what that one-liner is. What is it that you want to do? And just stick to it. And I'm just going to carry on going because there's one extra thing I want to say. On social, it's like the town hall of everything, isn't it? It's the place where your mum is, where your cousins are, it's where your colleagues from time ago are, and they're all watching you. And you're really aware that they're all there. So if you open up a TikTok account or Snap, you get those notifications, which is like, so-and-so from your 10 years ago life is here now. Don't let everyone else's eyeballs sway you from your strategy professionally. Because if I start on, I'm your creative career bestie now on Instagram and TikTok, and I start thinking about, if my mum's watching this and my auntie's watching this, and then I think, I shouldn't really say that, or what if they think I'm a bit of a dick? Like, what if they think I'm just making this up? Because they don't see that professional side of you, then that could start muddying your presence, and all of a sudden you're talking about really generic stuff and you've sort of lost why people follow you. Stay on that strategy strand, forget everyone else, block them if you want to, it's totally fine, but just know your audience and just go for them every single time.
That is so good, that is so good. Yeah, round of applause, why not? Absolutely. And two things I wanted to say off the back of that as well. One thing is niche. Niching is so important, and I think that is so key when it comes to, building your presence online. Isn't it quite key, niche, right? Yes, I think it is as well. So being confident in what your niche is and finding that niche. And another thing you said is research. Researching a panel, and I'm sure that all of us can attest to that, how important that is. And another thing you said was about style. And is it an OOTD? Yeah, is that what it is? Is that what the kids are saying? OOTD. Can we just get a round of applause for what everyone looks like today? They look great, don't they? Absolutely, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to say is standing out. So that's something that all of you guys have mentioned. So what are some key elements that could, enable people to stand out on social media and make their profile different from the rest?
I'm going to lurk for a bit.
Me again? I feel like I'm speaking too much, no?
Ain't nobody trying to take that?
Okay,
Go on, BJ.
standing out. Man, I maybe can give personal examples, right? And it's a little bit from what I was speaking about earlier. I think Shana's had a good point about finding your purpose and sticking to it. But sometimes I just want to add to that as well. Don't preach, don't overly preach, because people get bored of you. There's a million eyeballs on, like Shana was saying, on you. You stand for what you believe in, write about it. But then when it becomes 200%, it becomes preachy and everybody gets turned off and they're like, I don't want to listen to this person. But your question, right, about standing out, again, it's just going back to your true self. Or looking at it, I always look at it like how I do stuff I work on advertising and branding and stuff like that for clients as well. There's a million other brands saying the same thing. It's the same for you as well. There's a million other people who are like you, a creative or whatever you are, and they're saying similar things. What is going to be your niche, like we were talking about, and how do you talk about that and then stand out, right? Like, it could be the way you write things. It could be the tone, your personality. If you're bold, write it. That's your style, then you write it the way you are. If you be extra bold, show your personality. If you're gonna just write like everyone else, if you're gonna do the same thing, if your CV looks exactly the same, no one's gonna click and open and read it. Like one of the best hires I did, and this guy won an award for me. He's an Australian guy. He didn't send a CV in. He wrote a spoken word because he's a poet, right? He wrote a spoken word poetry video. He sent in a video of him doing spoken word, and for me that stood out as a candidate, and I hired him instantly, and he won my Cannes Lion. We worked together and we won an award for that, right? Because he was so different, he stood out. And the same in London, I just hired this young team. Quite funny guys. They called the Beardy Boys. First of all, they stood out on LinkedIn because it was not one person's profile. It's a profile for two dudes who had a gorgeous beard. I mean, I didn't hire them for their beard, but what they did was they on the during the weekend, yes, they do. They're just another advertising creative pair, but the weekend they actually work with a rapper, and then they shoot all his content on social. And I love the music videos they've been doing, super simple, green screen, stuff like that. And I hired them because they had something different that other candidates didn't have. So they had a way to stand out. I think that's just one of my advice, right? Find ways. It could be the way you write, something you show. Your CV is not a CV. Your CV is a video. Your CV is something else. Just find ways to stand out.
Absolutely. And did you have anything to add, Chloe?
Yeah. I also kind of like I want to piggyback on what you said about like how, and also what you mentioned about niche. Like, remember that you are the niche. So really embrace that, and how you show up in person is like how you should also show up online. I love how when I first followed Shanaz on Instagram this morning, literally, I saw in her bio, your creative career bestie, and mine is your virtual hype girl. So like, I was just like, oh, you speak my language, girl, like, say less. And I just love that right off the bat, like, like when you stumble on someone's profile, like what role, what kind of like service are they providing for you? For me, it's like, I want you to leave my page feeling empowered, confident, like ready to take on any opportunity that you so desire. And I think also what Vijay was mentioning, like visually, how do you stand out? So like the colors they use, I actually want to use a real life example. And she's actually here in the room today. Fuck Being Humble, founder, Stephanie Sword-Williams at the back, yes. If you she's like one of my mentors. I don't know if she knows that, but like I look up to her so much. But if you look at her page, like straight away you see like bright orange, the blue, the leopard print, like it's just giving boldness, and instantly you're like, okay, I will always like associate it with this person. And also like just think about how you want to be seen. Like I know a lot of people struggle with confidence and like low self-esteem, and sometimes like it's hard. Maybe like your alter ego inside is like a Beyonce. I don't know about you, but that's it for me. And you struggle to show up that way. I feel like your social media can kind of allow you space, a safe space to do that. And so like think about how like if someone stumbled on your page, like how are you showing up? Is it like if you come to my page, I want you to see me as someone who can like easily take up space, like can speak, is confident, and sometimes like I hate to admit it, but like I get a lot of like my confidence from my socials, and like I allow that to feed into how I show up in person, because like while I'm still kind of struggling to find that in like in-person interactions, like I can kind of get that from my like the sort of like character that I build online. So yeah, kind of like going back to the point of how you stand out. It's really just like embracing who are you, because that's gonna be the most like, radiant, magnetic, attractive thing that you can show up as.
Absolutely, that's amazing, and I think it's so key that people understand who they are first before they put it out there, because people can't understand who you are if you don't know who you are. So understand who you are and then put that out there is so key. And being that authentic you online is so, so key to differentiating yourself. And I think in the sea of sameness that we're seeing, that is one way to actually make yourself stand out. Because if you don't want to end up like everybody else, you have to do something different. Literally like that person did with the, was it spoken word? Done a spoken word. Like how many spoken words have you guys received? I've never received a spoken word in my life, and you got one and you hired the guy. I think that's amazing, something different to actually make them stand out. And when someone does that different thing to make them stand out, how do they go about, networking and getting access to job opportunities? How would you recommend that they do that? Go for it, Shanaz.
I've got so many other thoughts from the other things that you're talking about. Sorry, could you repeat that last question again?
In terms of networking and finding job opportunities,
yes,
and standing out.
Yes. So I think that for the very specific purpose of networking to get a job, I think there's a slightly different way to stand out, and it could be a bit softer. I think the standing out in terms of standing out from a whole sea of sameness and many applications, your example, VJ, is incredible. I think on social specifically, to stand out, I mean, as we know on social, we are interrupting people's feeds continuously, so it's actually having that continuous stream of yourself showing up in people's feed and reminding people, and also being quite clear about your skill sets. Like, you kind of, if you think about your brand as your personal brand as a real brand, and you think about the funnel, your social presence is very much sort of upper funnel, generally brand awareness of yourself and keeping that continuous. But if you go down the funnel a little bit more and you're going for that actual job that you want to stand out and someone to approach you and hire you without you even having to interview, you want to get into that consideration phase, fairly regularly, which is like, you don't want to mistake your success on social as you becoming a content creator and not hireable. So a lot of the times I will see creatives on social and I think, oh, I'd quite like to work with them, but I don't know if they're a content creator or if they're wanting to be hired. And like, if you want to be hired, put it in your bio. Every now and again, make a reel that says, hey guys, I'm free next week. Like, it's okay to make a TikTok that says that, because when I know in my networks there are creatives out in the world that are free coming up, I contact them out of my own, they don't even need to come to me, I will contact them. So like, get further down the funnel if you want to stand out and actually get hired next week or next month, but always keep that sort of beat going of your upper funnel brand awareness and stand out in other more interesting ways. But I think standing out can be quite simple. It could be literally letting everyone know that you're available to hire.
That is amazing, and I think that is so key as well. Like, I think everything that you guys are saying is key. It's so super useful. And off the back of that as well, you guys, what would you say in terms of big mistakes that people, not big mistakes, but common mistakes you see people make when it comes to wanting to be hired on their social media channels and, essentially not getting hired? Because you've just highlighted one just now. Is there any more that come to mind for you guys? Go for it, Chloe.
Yeah, I think some of like the mistakes that I see, I actually kind of like, if it's okay to go back to your previous question about like networking and how it can kind of like feed into it being a potential mistake. But a lot of people, like I'm sure after this, a lot of people will be reaching out to VJ, to Shanaz, to Jonathan, or myself, if you care to do so. But like, it's really like not personalizing or customizing your message to them or your outreach to them, because a lot of the time it will be like, hi, I'm looking to connect with people in the media space. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Like, it's like, it's giving nothing. Like, go girl, give us nothing, So I just feel like one of the ways that I've, kind of like seen people get into a pitfall is not really like customizing what they really like about someone. Like, let's say, so for example, recently someone reached out to me and she's like currently job hunting. It's like low employment in general right now, so it's quite hard. But one of the ways that she stood out was that she made a video customizing how she landed on my page. So she was like, oh, I'm like really eager to like speak to you, and like I just wanted you to know like how I, like discovered you and whatnot. So, because she knows like my love language is like video making. So she like made a video as well, and she was like, oh yeah, I found like a comment that you left on like one of my connections on LinkedIn, and she proceeded to say that like, yeah, this is like what I'm looking for into our conversation. Like, in our 30-minute chat, I'm hoping that you can cover this, 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 like actually tell them what you are looking to achieve and like why you are specifically reaching out to them and not like anyone else. And so I think that goes both ways, like whether that's you doing the outreach or you kind of like receiving it, like you just appreciate that extra touch of personalization even more. So that's one of the ways I think like people can kind of, you know, make networking a very icky thing. It's just kind of like going one to many rather than like one to one. And I'm sure like everyone here on the panel like appreciates it when someone's like, out of like the sea of sameness, I reached out to you because I really love the project you are working on. And I want to like kind of like deep dive into the brilliance of your brain, you know. That's how I now like do outreach, not just like, oh, someone's from a cool company, like I just want to get a job there. It's more of like, what have they worked on? Like, you know, if you really enjoyed the podcast that Jonathan does, like actually talk about a specific episode that you know, really like fucked with and like talk about that, you know? So I think that's one of the ways that, yeah, you can like potentially avoid that mistake.
That's amazing. And I have a question off the back of that as well for VJ. In terms of people creating content, because Chloe just covered content creation and people using that personalized kind of look at content creation and people using that to get in touch with her, how would you say that people should stand out through content? Because we've spoken about profiles, but how would you say that people should stand out through content and attract clients and potential employers?
Let me come back to that after. I just want to add a little bit, right? Like Chloe was saying about, you know, like it's nice sometimes to add things to personalize your, I guess, your message or your content to target that person. So I work with Gary Vee, like I said, right? Like there's 1 million fans out there. So I get applications from, but here's my advice, right? Don't be creepy. I get 1 million like, hey man, I'm like a Gary fan. And then I get like 100 messages from this one person. I say, yeah, I know you're a fan. There's 1 million other fans. But what have you learned from him? And what have you used in your life or in your career to make a difference to the work that you do? That's what I'm missing sometimes, but I get like 100 messages. So be careful with that. Like you can find your thing, find your niche, find your personality. You do something different to get that job you really want, but don't be fucking creepy. I think that's my simple advice. What was your question again about, okay, on
That
platform, how do you stand out on platforms, right?
Oh,
so
no, essentially content. Through content.
Yeah, through content. Okay. Simple things, right? Earlier I spoke about what's your purpose, what's your style, what's your content itself. Very basic things. Sometimes people don't even think about this. What's your 3 seconds hook at the front of your content? Because that can really make you stand out. I've sometimes, like someone like me, you're approaching someone else to get a job. They only have 5 seconds max to see that content, to hook them on, to watch the other 20, 30, or to read the other 20, 30, right? Example, I can say, oh, I know this, or I've done this, but 1 million people say I've done this. If you change that, like, I really can't do this anymore, and you say the things that you can't do, and then you talk about the things that you can do, would attract someone else. Like, oh, that's quite interesting. Everybody else is boasting and talking about this. Well, this person showed that they're vulnerable, right? Could be a way to, so your hook to your content is so important as well. I think on different platforms, even when you write stuff, what's your headline? What's the shocking thing that's going to stop you from scrolling away or from skipping, right?
Yeah. That's good, and I think what you said earlier was literally an answer to the question, don't be creepy. Like on social media and creating content, just don't be creepy, please. Yeah, Shanaz, is there anything you could say to round up?
Yes, definitely. On the creepy front, that's what I thought as well, because I think things work differently for different people. Like, I think that would have stood out for you, Cara, but maybe for me, I would have been like, oh, you're looking at my messages, that's a bit weird. So yeah, I think be authentic to yourself, and then you'll find your people accordingly. I think standing out content-wise, in addition to everything that you just said, is that you're an expert at something, so make yourself the expert. The other amazing thing about social is that you can just invent yourself as to whoever you want to be. If you want to be a creative director and you've got a few years under your belt, name yourself that and be that expert. But I don't mean just a sweeping role title like that. I mean more, so an example I'll give, when I first started at Meta, within my first week, I had to present to an entire room of brands about creative strategy on the platforms. And I just went to my manager, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know enough about the platform. I don't know all of the case studies that you're talking about. I haven't practiced the presentations. I don't know enough. And she just turned around to me, and it's something that I think about a lot when I think about expertise, which is if you even know a thumbnail's worth more of information than the people in that room, you will be of value. And I was like, oh shit, that's like a really tiny amount. But actually, I do know a lot about creative. I've done it for a lot of my entire career. I know how to make amazing creative on social, so I'm just going to sit back into myself for a little bit and just be okay with the fact that I'm not going to know absolutely everything, but I am an expert in something. And that's the kind of way I approached all the meetings going forward for the many years I was there. But I think that is a good way to approach social, which is what is it that you're an expert in, and what is it the niche that makes you you, and put that forward in your content. So that I think that will be the natural way you stand out. Authenticity comes from you just being yourself and showcasing the expert of your own lived experience. There's only one you, so put your own one you forward every time.
Amazing, amazing. Give our people a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. And where can people find you quickly?
Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
Wonderful. VJ?
My name.
Yeah, Instagram and LinkedIn. Like, I answer my Instagram more than my WhatsApp messages or my messages.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And Chloe?
Literally same, Chloe Cara on LinkedIn. That's CHLOECARA on LinkedIn. And then TikTok, Chloe Cara with an extra E. And then Instagram, Chloe X Cara. Sorry, y'all just search me up, Chloe Cara. You'll see it.
You'll find her. My name's Jonathan Reed. You can find me on LinkedIn mostly. All right, everybody, give yourselves a round of applause. You've been amazing. Wonderful.
Okay, so I think we're ready for the next session. For those of you that are standing and you're going to watch or listen into the next session, if you can please sit down, please. Yes. In a polite way. Thank you so much. Okay, so over to our next session, which is all about the creative industry and different careers within the creative industry. We have Bushra, our young talent and DigiLearning ambassador. Give a round of applause to Bushra. Bushra, you can share more about yourself. You could. And then we have Darren, Director of Sales from Spotify. Welcome, first, for Darren. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Bushra, you can introduce yourself and share more about yourself and what you do outside of DigiLearning. And so can you, Darren, as well.
Amazing. Hi, guys. Hi. Hello, how are you? Are you all right, guys? How are you? Yes.
Anybody in this room?
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Bushra. I'm going to be the host for this panel today, and I've got Darren here with me. Darren, you're going to introduce yourself in a bit, but we're going to play a game as well. It's called 2 Truths and 1 Lie. So me and Darren are going to share 2 truths and 1 lie, and you have to guess the lie. Okay? Should I start, or do you want to start? You go first. Okay. Obviously, my name is Bushra. I am 30 years old. I live in Manchester, and I've got a lot of nephews and nieces. Guess the lie. Right. So if you think, go on, you start.
I'm going to say you're not 30.
Okay. If you think I'm not 30, put your hand up. Okay, if you think I don't have a lot of nephews and nieces, put your hand up. Okay, if you think I don't live in Manchester, put your hand up. I am 30, by the way. I'm actually not. That was the lie. That was the lie. Right, your turn, Darren, go on.
Okay, you put me on the spot here right now. So I used to be an athlete for Great Britain. I used to be in a friendship group with the Sugar Babes, and I have been with my lovely wife for 25 years.
Okay. Athlete, put your hand up if you think that's the lie. Oh, I think that's the lie. Okay, who do you think what was the second? The Sugar Babes is a lie? Okay. Do you think he's married for how many years?
25 years.
Blood, yeah, well done, congratulations. I don't know how you do it, mate. Do you think he's been married for 25 years? Wait, you've been married for 25 years?
I said been with. Been
with. Sorry, I'm 24. Mate, did you say black don't crack? So you're looking
Thank
good.
you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're looking good.
Thank you.
Okay, who thinks he's been with his missus for 25 years? Okay, what's the lie?
The lie is the sugar babes. So thank you
yeah.
very much.
Okay, cool, great. Right, so we're gonna start off with a very important question. You've obviously got a massive role. What made you stand out? Give me 3 things that made you stand out to achieve this kind of success in your industry.
It's hard to start from the beginning, really. I think standout for me was having the courage to fail on the way. And what I mean by that is some of the roles I took on my journey to get to where I am today have been far and wide. But what I've always learned when I entered into those roles. And first of all, my name is Darren Thompson, by the way. I work at Spotify, Director of Sales, been there for 4 years. I was managing the key client team for 2.5 years, and now I'm managing the agency business. If you don't know what the agency business does, they look after the big pockets of money that we have to go out and evangelize and get budgets from into Spotify that shows growth. And we've been smashing it for 4 years. That's where I am now. So, I said on my journey to get here, I would say having that courage to fail. And what I mean is going into any role, I've taken telesales roles, I've worked in print advertising, I've worked in-flight media companies and small tech startups that some you would never know who they are, who they respond to. But every place I've ever worked, there was always some champion sitting at the top, someone that was doing that job really, really well. And you can always go, right, that person's doing something fantastic well. What can I learn from that person? How can I mimic the behaviors of that person? How can I then become better than that person, surpass that person, and then use that position and platform to take on, an experience to take on to the next role? And that's something that I can always say is something that's really valuable to do wherever you are. You know, if you're in a friendship group, or you see someone in a crowded space at a party, you always go, what is it that makes that person stand out? How do I learn from that individual? And that's the real key thing that I've always done.
So we'd say you're not worried about failure, so fear doesn't exist in your life, I guess.
No, fear is part of the journey. I think from my athletics background, I was long jumping 200 meters for GB. I unfortunately got injured, and then I had a definition problem in my mind and who I was, who I stood out for, who I was, right? I fell into media 20 years ago, and it kind of fed my competitive nature. And what I've gathered, the learnings over time have been that as an athlete, you're working A, B, C. You're putting in the hard work to get the result and the outcome at some point in the future. If you don't put the work in, you won't get the result. And so if you sit there and expect the world to give you favors, the company to give you favors, the people around you to give you favors, and you don't have it on your own volition, then you're not going to see the results. But once you figure out the perception versus the reality, and you actually know that what you put in, you can get out, it becomes a different world. Like you've unlocked the key to the matrix. You can see how you can move yourself forward.
Preach. Amazing. Okay. How can individuals balance their creative vision with industry demands and expectations to achieve long-term success?
I think really key, and I think it was touched on in the previous panel, is authenticity is so powerful. So, so powerful. When you are being a standout individual and you want to be recognized in a sea full of same people, samesies.
Do you think it could be difficult for people that are like very, how do I say it? So, for example, you're a black man, I'm a Muslim woman, visible Muslim woman. I've got strong values, strong opinions about some things, and it doesn't go with the creative industry. It just doesn't align with the creative industry.
But why?
How exactly why?
But why do you think that?
It just doesn't. It just doesn't from experience. So how do we manage that? How do we deal with disagreements or positive conflict, I want to call it?
Listen, it's not been easy, right? And again, I lean back on the perception versus the reality. The perception that we all carry, if you're of color, if you've got a journey that is different to the masses that's out there that we're fighting up against, is to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized for your authentic self. I think that, you know, how to stand out is to recognize that you do stand out and use that as your value. When I first started out, I'd go into workplaces, I'd be the only person of color in the whole room for a sea of 800 to 1,000 people. When I first started out 20 plus years ago. And I've got a colleague over here who can attest to that, and a good friend of mine who was on the previous panels, that, you know, it's always been something that early on I struggled with. Why am I the only person in this room? And I still struggle with today, and certain boards and certain panels that I be on and conversations I have, I'm one of a fair few. You don't get me started on the whole women aspect of it as well. There's not enough women on boards, not enough diversity in many of the situations I find myself in. But my lived experience is something that I'm proud of, and I need to use my platform in those moments to call it out. Why is there not enough people in here? Speak to the adjudicator or the person who handled or set up the meeting, and just in a nice way to say, next time it'd be good to see some more faces of color, or some faces or female faces, because it gives you a more robust and 360 conversation. And I think I've, over time, managed to gather the power to have that conversation, but I wish I had it a lot sooner.
Right, amazing. Okay, Darren, so I hear that you're a United fan and a family man.
Wow, you got that wrong, man.
Yeah.
I'm an Arsenal fan.
No, a United fan. That's what
I'm an Arsenal fan. Are you doing that for jokes? Yeah, you can't go there, man.
So how do you do it? You know, you're a United fan, a family man, a businessman. How do you do it? How do you deal with all the demands, you know?
I think, you know, it comes with, like, I have ADHD, and I'm quite proudly neurodiverse. Can be a fucking pain in the ass for some people, but, you know, I think when you have ADHD, you can compartmentalize, and you have to be fiercely non-negotiable on your non-negotiables. Like, so if time for family is family time for work is work time for yourself, which is really massively important. If I want to go to the gym, if I want to go and see my boys, you know, I need to have that time. But, you know, you have to prioritize that family, business, boys. You know what I mean? You know, it's number one. But, you know, you have to find those times and those moments to give yourself space and time to think about it. If you are doing a side hustle, you need to dedicate this hour and a half of this day. I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm not going to get distracted by my work. I'm going to just focus on the side hustle and think about it. But, you know, that life isn't always like that, compartmentalizing to quick, fine, easy parts. But you have to manage it in that way fiercely. If you're a really strategic, someone who can write things down and plan your calendar to an nth degree, that's great. That's not me. I compartmentalize in my head and try and do the best I can and do it well.
Okay, so you said you've got ADHD. How do you... ADHD, and you've got this position. How do you deal with procrastination, paralysis, all the above? How do you do it?
Self-care is really important. You know, self-care, taking yourself to the gym, exercising, making sure that you've got the... we're leaving. Got some people leaving. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Just
call you out. You're leaving Rome now. Sorry. Carry on.
ADHD, I guess.
Distracted me.
Okay, cool. Next question. Honestly, it's very impressive to see someone with ADHD and like doing very well, because it's not easy. I know a lot of people that have ADHD. It's a battle. There are days like you can't get up, you can't do nothing about it.
It's a spectrum, right? So I'm highly functioning. So I guess my wife takes the full burden of my ADHD, cupboards open, shit not being done, half finished, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, she loves me, so it's all good.
Okay. Shout out to his wife. How can individuals leverage networking to advance their careers in the creative industry? Important question, right?
Yeah, and I think it was touched on quite a lot in the previous panel.
Yeah.
So important to have the courage to go and have a conversation.
But how do we teach networking? How do you have that conversation? Because I can talk to anyone. I can talk to a wall. But some people can't. Do you know what I'm saying? Some people are shy. They don't know how to start a conversation. How do you start a conversation?
It's something that's always come fairly natural to me, to be fair. You know, just going up and talking to people, strangers in a room. If you're in a shared space, what I've recognized over time is that people carry their own fears, people carry their own burdens, people have their own level of knowledge that they're also uncertain of how that's going to represent themselves in a room or in a space. And so they're looking for an outlet, looking for someone who's going to be able to share this commonality with them in that moment. And so if you can go up and you just speak to someone and give them that crux, if they're on their own or if you're in a function where there's like a group session like this, I'm sure not everybody knows each other, just have that courage to overcome that inertia, to speak to that one stranger in the room and see the power you give that person and the power you receive back. It is so important in any situation to keep on building upon that, because you never know the connections you make by just having a conversation. I was with Lisa, the lovely Lisa, shout out to Lisa Goodchild, last week. I'm going to put her out of there because she pushed me over. I went down and knelt down next to her at a table because she had a stranger that I didn't know sitting next to her. And I was talking to her, and Lisa got so excited she pushed me over. And I lost my cool, and I fell on my back in a crowded space. I'm just pulling it out at you, Lisa, but it's okay. But, you know, having that courage, whether you're confident or not, it is really important to work on that within yourself. Because a lot of generations beneath my generation, I'm 45 years old this year, so they lean on the socials too much, and you lean on hiding behind screens, you lean on hiding behind emails, not picking up I've grown up picking up the phone, speaking to people, communicating, learning and you know, cultivating my craft in that regard. And I think that if you're a person that you represent yourself online and you can't be that person in real life, then there's two things aren't meeting and matching. And you can do all the great work, and then the final piece is that interview or that conversation or that elevator pitch when you're speaking to someone that is valid, that you've managed to sort of go up to and speak to, and then your conversation is dead and you haven't done the relationship and you haven't got the conversational aspect behind it, or you haven't got the education or the I guess the experience to sort of talk it through, then that's a missed opportunity.
How about if it's the other way around? Because I struggle with doing all the online stuff, but when I'm in the room, I can work the room. I can do my thing. So how do we deal with that? How do I fix that problem? Like, if you're good in the room, but everything right now is online, you have to promote yourself online. Do we have to do it online? Can we carry on doing it the traditional way?
I think it's a mixture, a fine balance of both, because, and a bit similar to the question that came in the panel before, I think I had this great person that came, they were looking for a role. I'd posted up a role on LinkedIn, and like they were saying in the previous panel, thousands of people saying, oh, I like the look of that role. I like the sound of Spotify. Can we have a chat, or can we have an introduction? You get hundreds of thousands of these anytime you post a role. Yeah, he ignored mine. She's getting me back. You pushed me over, Lisa. We're gonna get onto that. And but one person out of that stood up, and they basically said, "Hey, Darren, I hear you're an Arsenal fan, a businessman, a gentleman." Arsenal fan, businessman, gentleman. This is why we should talk. I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm a family man. I'm a businessman, and this is why. And also a gentleman. Thank you. But you know, it stood out because it fed my ego. I was like, oh shit, they know who they were actually doing their research about me. Let me give this person time. And it's those little nuances, those little nuggets, feeding the ego of the person that you're about to speak to, because everybody has an ego. Everybody wants to live this world, show that they've made some kind of imprint or difference or something within the realm of what they're working in right now. And so if you can feed that a little bit, that's your in. That's your in. It's hard to ignore. Also the power of three. You reach out to someone one time, they'll ignore you. Second time, they'll ignore you. Third time, if they see your same name, they will feel internal. And if they're not a dickhead, they'll actually reach out and say, "I've got time for you now. Let's have a conversation." Do you know what I mean? So it's always the rule of three as well.
The rule of three, cool. I feel like people can give or receive really good advice, and some people don't receive the right advice because you're receiving it from the wrong people. What has been the best piece of advice you've received and the worst piece of advice?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is, and it sounds really cliche because it's been mentioned all the time, but authenticity of you and yourself is so important. When I first started out, I think South London, I'm a cliche tattooed man, walking with a bit of a swagger. Do you know what I mean? And I was going into rooms feeling that at that time, the media industry specifically wasn't as creatively led of inspiration around fashion. You couldn't express yourself as much. You had to conform a lot. So we were all wearing blazers and pocket squares and like wearing the shirts and ties. You didn't stand out. And I remember thinking I needed to be this, because I didn't come from this background like everyone else has. I had people that are around me that had been to Ivy League universities, that had some ridiculous kind of nepotism going on in their family where their dad played golf with the CEO of the company and they were just there because they were there. And I was like, how are they getting ahead of me? So I felt like I had to sort of conform. I had to hide my South London accent. I had to, conform and speak the way that I felt that they were speaking. I put on a semi-posh voice. I can't even do it now because I've lost that a long time ago.
Please, come on, let's try.
I used to talk a little bit like this. And so, hey, my name is Darren. And I'd lower the tone of my voice a little bit, And I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere. And I remember there was this one place I was working. It was called Eye Candy Media. I had to read from a script. And I had to basically stick to this script every time I was on the phone to then try and sell something in Cannes Media Festival on a digital media screen and sell advertising space on that. And I had to do 1,000 calls in a week. Literally 1,000 calls in a week. You do the math, right? There's a lot of calls. And you got given these spreadsheets after spreadsheets of names and numbers you had to just call and just read from the script. And then I saw this one guy that, again, when you go into space, you look at the person that's making it successful. This one guy that was selling effectively, and he was getting the deals 2 a week, 2 a day. He was just smashing it and getting all these big numbers. So I was like looking at what he was doing. He weren't reading the script. He was going in and having a conversation. And so when I started thinking, I'm going to have the conversation, I'm going to talk in my own language, I'm going to say how I speak and be authentically me. And that's when the revenue started coming. That's when I realized that was my first sales role. That's when I realized I can do it. And that kind of stuck with me, always being authentic and going in unashamedly being who you are. If you are Muslim and you wear a hijab, that's fine. Just go in there and you go and you speak your truth. You know what I mean? Because there's no one else that can. You might be able to go in and create. I'll talk another story. I was in a client meeting with Johnson & Johnson, and they were talking about their creams that they have, and they would have this new cream, and they were trying to find a competitive space. It had cocoa butter in it. If any black person in here knows that cocoa butter is a dedicated thing that we use in our existence, right? They were going, we can't sell this. We haven't marketed. We're marketing it. We're not hitting the mix. So I was like, you're not marketing it to the right person. You need to write to the right social group. So why don't you market it to people of color? Because we use that cream to cover our ashy elbows and stuff like that. And he was like, listen, lucky you got shoes on. I didn't see your foot bottom. I'm joking. I'm playing with you. But they did a test on that, and they put it out there, and they actually marketed it to people of color and people of certain backgrounds. And it's now one of their best-selling creams. I'm not taking the credit for it, because there was a CMO on that side that was of color as well, and we had the discussion. But she didn't have the power to push that through. So having that power and having that shared responsibility to push this through in that situation helped them find a target audience. And that's just something that, happens in these magical moments sometimes.
100%. Do you know what? I've never been afraid to push back or say what I need to say, and I sometimes just not physically leave the room, but leave a project that doesn't align with my values and beliefs. And if I feel like people don't respect what I'm saying, You don't need to understand it, but at least accept it or respect it. But the problem is not with me, with other Black, young, Muslim women that don't have the power to do that or feel like they might lose on a job opportunity. Like, how do we deal with that?
I think I've said it before, it's perception versus reality. I think we have to get out of ourselves sometimes. Because our perception, unfortunately, is built up and systemically over time on our day-to-day interactions with who we are and, you know, how we turn up and how we see through the eyes of the media and how it's like dictating who we are and what that narrative is. If we carry that too much, it then kind of can be a virus within ourselves, right? But what I found, especially since the inception of George Floyd, is, you know, you have to stand up and you have to speak out. You have to be able to recognize that your voice is valid and you're in that room for a reason. You're in that space for a reason. And, you know, be unashamedly pushing that forward, but be respectful of the fact that you have to sometimes have an educational moment or have a moment of, okay, let me take this aside. I don't want to embarrass this individual, but let me try and speak to this individual sideways. It is a burden that we carry, but unfortunately, the perception is that is the reality, right? And so we have to continue to move the narrative forward in the spaces that we can, respectfully, and hopefully it's received in the right way.
Hopefully. Okay, so the first piece of advice or the best piece of advice you've received is be authentic. Yeah. What's the worst piece of advice?
I think the worst piece of advice was someone told me that you have to dress for the role that you want to be in, right? So at the time it was like someone told me to go and dress in a smart suit and a pocket square and tie and skinny jeans and loafers and stuff like that. I look good. But also, it wasn't me.
The confidence.
It wasn't me. It just wasn't me at the time. So I think that it then set me backwards of trying to shoehorn myself into being something that I wasn't, you know?
Amazing, cool. Okay. I believe that everyone has a superpower, okay? I think my superpower is resilience. What's yours?
I think my superpower is people. I think I have an interest in people. Anyone you speak to or you engage with, I find real power in that. And I'm an extrovert. You know, the extroverts, introverts, ambiverts. I'm probably on the Ender scale. I think there needs to be a whole bucket dedicated to me about my extroversion. But it's because I get my energy from people. And if I'm in and around people, it's my power, and I can connect with people, and I can speak to people. So I think that's my superpower. But I think when I look at that, and when I'm teaching my kids, and when I'm teaching any young person around me, it's like really find that energy. You don't have to be confident. It's not. There's this misconception. Confidence and extroversion is just a different way of being confident. You can be introverted and still be hyper confident because you're confident in your skills, you're confident in who you are, you're confident in your space, you're confident in your own silence. So take that in a way and figure out what it is that you bring to the table and literally take that as a mantle and run with it, because like they were saying in the previous panel before, authenticity is really key. Find that direction, find that goal, and finding that pathway for yourself and pushing it out. It's a murky water. Everyone's saying, yes, be social, put it on LinkedIn, don't put it on LinkedIn, put it on everything. So it's trying to, what is the clear sign? There isn't one. There isn't a clear bullet to say, do this, but respect the platforms that you're on. Recognize that as an employer, I'm going to be looking at your Instagram, at your socials, and to try and see your character before I make a decision on who you are. That's what employers do if they're good, if they're trying to build a picture of who you are as an individual. So make your socials reflect your personality, but who you are as a person and how you want to be.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Before we finish, I'm going to help you network today. So I want you to turn around, look at someone that you haven't met before, and just wave at them. So after this panel, you can have a chat. Yeah?
I think we should go one step further. Everyone just find someone that you don't know and give them a high five right now. High five, give them a high five right now.
High five.
And that person you've high-fived, you connect with, and you never know when the magic might happen and the business is going to grow from here.
You never know. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Darren.
both of you. That was a great panel. Thank you. Okay, swiftly on to the next one. I'm going to call Ali first. Ali will be hosting our panel today. Okay, so I'm going to call over to the stage Keith Conway from Diverse Features. You can have a round of applause as well, guys. Yes. And then Daryl Biden from Financial Times. Sorry, not from Financial Times, apologies. And then Lan Fan. Thank you so much. And a big round of applause, actually, because she stepped in to save our panel today. Am I missing? No, that's it. That is. Oh. Dina. Oh my gosh, I don't have your details here. But Dina, can you come on? Apologies, Dina. From where did you say? From the UK Creative Festival. Sorry about that, Dina. Apologies. I was going to leave you there. I'm going to hand it over to Ali. You guys have an extra mic here, and you can take it away. Ali, if you introduce yourself, and then the panel topic, and then you can let the panelists as well introduce themselves further and share about what they do. Okay.
Hello, guys. My name is Ali. I'm a content creator. I've been making content for around 4 years on TikTok. And I've recently started helping brands and businesses engage younger audiences and just people in general on social media. But it's not about me. It's about these amazing panelists and about you guys as well. So just before I introduce them, I wanted to get a read of the room. Who here is a creative or an aspiring creative? Okay. What about corporate, more traditional corporate roles, interested or working corporate? Okay. And any aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs? Okay, shout out to you guys. But yeah, cool. I guess we go around and start at the back with introductions. So, oh yeah, you guys have the mic. So yeah, Dina, if you want to go ahead.
Am I going to go first?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Dina Green. I run the UK Creative Festival and Creative Careers Fair. It happens down in Margate next week, so I'm last minute edition as well.
Buy your tickets.
And we have knocking on the door of 2,000 14 to 25-year-olds coming down to Margate to meet with creative businesses and to learn and understand what opportunities there might be within the creative industries. We like to call ourselves like the uncle and auntie to the youth in the UK that is the one that can make those connections and those introductions, because it's not always about what you know, it's about who you know. And we are that uncle and auntie. So come down to Margate, it's free, and it's next week, and it's on the beach, and the sun's going to shine, and it's a really inspirational and fun thing to do.
Amazing, thank you. And where can people find the tickets?
Yeah, on ukcreativefestival.co.uk. And it's free to come along, so come along.
Okay, I'm expecting you guys there because I'm going to be there.
Hi, my name is Lan Fan. If you can tell from my accent, I'm from New York. So I'm the CEO and founder of Community of 7. I'm also the author of Do This Daily, Secrets to Finding Success, Happiness, and Purpose in Life and Work. So this topic for today I'm so excited about. Prior to this, I was at Fortune magazine. I was the chief membership and community officer at Fortune. Prior to that, I was the general manager of See Her, the gender equality initiative for the advertising industry, and I helped build the CMO practice at the Association of National Advertisers. And I normally stop there, but since this topic is about what we're, career path. Before that, I was a real estate investor. I was a booking agent. I booked artists like Slum Village, Bahamadia, etc. And before that, I sold shoes. And that was my first career. Was 17. I was at Nordstrom's, and I was one of the top salespeople. Humble bragging right now. And then my first unofficial job was at 13. I did acrylic nails because I grew up in my mom's nail shop. So, untraditional path.
Amazing.
Hi. So these days, I do several things. I'm what's called a portfolio director. So I'm on a few company boards and charity boards. I run as the Chief Executive the Marketing Academy Foundation, which, thank you, enables career starts in the marketing industries for young adults who, from, kind of tough, challenging backgrounds. So, people who didn't get born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I've just written a book called The Brand Book. And before that, I had a very long career in advertising, claim to fame, helped Tony Blair get elected in 1997, so a bit of a topical moment there, and led the development of Dove's campaign for real beauty. I then worked in senior marketing and commercial roles at The Independent, Mondelez and Vodafone. So I'm quite ancient, so I've had a long career, so it takes a bit of a time to explain, but really passionate about bringing diverse talent into our industry, because it's not easy.
Amazing, thank you. Keith?
So Lisa's very kindly asked me to speak a little bit about what I'm doing. So I'm Keith Conway, and I know what it's like to be 18 and have no A-levels. No A-levels, no hope, no sight of school through family reasons, low income background. I know what it's like to have no compass, to feel completely helpless. In my case, I moved town, I rented a room at the back of a council house, and I taught myself A-levels in a year. I then went to a school in Essex, and on one weekend I went up to Cambridge, and I walked in, and I spoke to the dean of a college called St. John's College. 2 days later, I walked out, and they'd offered me a place in the university. And he said, by the way, term started a month ago, you're late. So I was lucky. I came, 1 year later, I was a student from Cambridge, amazing. I went on to become a partner at a consulting firm and a headhunting firm. But what we do at Diverse Futures is we take young adults from low income, diverse backgrounds. We carefully source them. We're connected with every head of sixth form in the country. We are connected with universities for dropouts. We're connected with the seven boroughs of London, but we'll get all of them. We select. You can't just come on our course. We interview you personally, 30-minute Zoom interview on character and attitude. That's how you get onto our course, not grades. We then train you for 3 months. We train you in work-ready, career-ready, apprenticeship-ready skills. When's on time? Early. That's on time. We have an ex-actress who teaches you how to listen as well as how to speak. We have a clinical psychologist and an educational psychologist who record you and tell you what you're doing well. Some people are natural smilers, some people giggle, some people have a great voice. All we do is turn the dial. So I can't stand it when people say, my hero is this. No, be yourself, love yourself. And what we do is find out what you're good at and turn the dial. We also train you or certify you in a discipline. At the moment it's data analytics, AI, and then we get you an amazing job. And then, critically, we mentor you for 2 years in professional, personal, and technical support. Why? Because 50% of apprentices drop out in year 1. The employer has got a problem. The creative industry has a problem. They can't find the talent. Why? Because the universities are failing. Why the hell would you go to universities for your talent? They all look the same. You all have the reckless attitude towards debt. 52% of people who left university last year did not get a graduate level job, could not find a graduate level job. That statistic is going to get worse. So the government says, oh, we'll do apprenticeships. That's not working either. Why? Because it's the first time you've ever been in a professional environment. So no wonder you're not coping. Nobody's told you how to be prepared. And when you do get it, you're not supported. So you drop out. Dropout rate of apprenticeships in this country, across every apprenticeship, 50%. So employers have got a problem. They can't find the talent, not talent that sticks. So that's what we do. We carefully select talent. We prepare them for the workplace. We support them. And we're going to change lives. We are mission-driven. And we're going to change thousands of lives.
Amazing. A round of applause. Yes. Amazing, amazing. Cool. So I guess I'm going to just jump straight into the questions. So I guess I wanted to ask you guys first, what is the most effective way for young talent to identify the industries that they want to enter, and how do they actually enter and break into these industries? Yeah, go ahead.
I think start from yourself rather than the kind of jobs you think sound sexy. I think if you look at the activities that are sort of slightly work-orientated, that time flies when you're doing them, that you love, that you can immerse yourself in and go, golly, you know, I've been doing this for 2 hours, you know, how did that happen? And then start to sort of write down, you know, kind of what kind of activities where you're really, really in flow. And I did this because I had a major career change in my life. I'd set off wanting to be a university lecturer, and I was crying every day when I went to college, and that didn't seem to be a good plan. So I had to figure out a different path. And I started with, what do I really like doing? And asking myself questions like, do I like working with people? Do I enjoy talking to people? Do I want to be in an office? Do I want to be out? And I sort of almost got an abstract picture of the kind of work that would really, really suit me. And then start looking at the kinds of jobs that will allow you to do that. So if you love writing, and you're constantly doing that, find a job where there's a lot of writing. It might not be a copywriter in an ad agency, it might be writing market research reports, but start with you and what puts you in flow, and then start to say, would a social media marketing executive do that? Or, AI is incredibly fashionable, or I want a job in AI because it's incredibly fashionable. What does that really look like? And when you look at those roles, maybe it's an awful lot of data analytics. Now you might go, well, I don't like that. So I think really figure out what you love to do and what jobs there are that have an awful lot of that in them. And then you create your list rather than go, oh, I'd like to be an accountant, or I'd like to be in social media. You start with something that sounds sexy, but the reality may not be for you. So that's where I would start with yourself and figure out what jobs there are that allow you to be your best self from a work point of view and activity and skills. That's how I'd go about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one of the worst career advice is follow your passion, because sometimes your passion won't pay you. And I often think of the Japanese term ikigai, which roughly translated means finding your purpose. What's your reason for being? And Google it if you can, ikigai, but it's basically 4 concentric circles. In the middle is your reason for being. And the other 4 circles is, what do you love? What do you love doing? What are you passionate about, right? But it also has, what are you good at? Because I might love singing, but if I'm not good at it, no one's gonna hire me. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. The other circle is, what can I get paid for? And the last circle is, does the world need what I have? And you have to look at it at those different circles. And I think the other advice I would give is test and learn. I'll give you an example. So I find it ironic that this conference theme is Fortune favors the bold, because I was at Fortune magazine, I mentioned, and the reason why I found my dream job was I got laid off at the height of the pandemic. I had a multi-million-dollar budget. I was supposed to hire a team of 100, got to hire number 5, and found out, because the pandemic happened, I got laid off, and I had to lay off my entire team. And the funny thing with that was that when I first got that job, one of the reasons why I was hired was because the CEO of Fortune at that time said, Lan, you're a unicorn. I was like, why am I a unicorn? Because I had that experience in marketing, but I also had the experience because I used to be a high school teacher. I also used to be an entrepreneur. And I remember for years when I was in marketing, because most of my career I was in marketing, probably over 20 years. And I remember thinking, God, I would be so much higher. I would be like a CMO of P&G if I had just stayed the path after graduating Stanford, after graduating Harvard, if I had went straight into marketing. But that was not my personal path. So I became a booking agent, I became a teacher, I sold shoes, I did all these random things. But in order to get that job at that point, it was because I had all of these disparate experiences. And I remember having so much regret because I was like, God, I should have just stayed in one path. But I've found my dream job today because I made a lot of detours. And it's okay. There's not one path that you need to take. You're going to take a lot of different detours. And notice that the whole ikigai is finding your purpose. It's not finding your career. You're going to have a lot of different careers. You're going to have a lot of different jobs. What's going to be important is the person that you are, like finding happiness and meaning in your life. So focus on that and just keep on testing and learning.
I definitely think that thinking outside the box is something as well, and I'm going to give 3 examples here. So last year we had a lovely young man that came along to the careers fair. He said, I just want to work in music. I'm in a band and I just want to become famous, and I play the bass and that's all I want to do. And we said, well, why don't you go along to some of these talks and just see, did you know that, if you love music, there's music in every single film, there's music in every single advertisement that's made, there's so much music out there. And he ended up going to a talk by Wave Studios, which is a sound studio. And at the end of the day, he came back and went, I don't want to work in music. I want to work in sound design. That's awesome. And I was like, okay, amazing. And he's like, literally now got himself a internship there and spoken to the right people and everything like that. And, think slightly that just because there's something that I do agree that you need to do something that you enjoy doing. Otherwise, you don't want to turn up to work every day. But you're saying it also needs to give you a purpose to be able to get out of bed in the morning. Also, we do a lot of work around grassroots organizations and turning up and saying, this is much younger, sort of 14-year-olds, what are you good at? Oh, I'm really good at drawing. And what do you want to do? And they say, and I honestly, so many people have said this to me, I want to be a tattoo artist. And I think that's great. We need, love that, really kind of like creative role. But it's because that's the only thing they can join the dots between being great at illustration and their community around them and the people that have jobs that are making money out of that. So that is another key thing. Look a little bit further, because there's illustrators. There's also somebody great at maths, right? What can they do? They think they need to go into finance. That bores them. What about special effects, VFX? You need a bit of maths and physics to get into that. So it's just thinking a little bit about outside the box of, yes, you are good at that and you enjoy doing that and you can make money out of it, but where are the other avenues that you can go? And that is by talking to people, meeting people, and asking people's opinions.
I love that. And I think in terms of thinking outside the box, that's actually something that I've done, because similar to you, I had an experience where I was laid off from my job. I was laid off from my job, and I used to work in tech, but I started working in social media now, all because, I'm 24, so you can easily switch your career path. Like, it's never too late, nothing is forever. And to the point of thinking outside the box, you can build a personal profile for yourself. Like, social media exists nowadays for a reason. I started putting out content about the things I wanted to work in, and from that, I attracted those opportunities. And so people then came to me, even though I didn't necessarily have a background in marketing. I studied computer science and AI. That had nothing to do with it. But because I was willing to put myself out there, my social media was a conversation starter. So I see a lot of young people here, and it's like, put yourself out there on social media, do that, and you will attract a lot of opportunity. But then going into it, Keith, I want to ask you, in terms of like just young people, apprenticeships, internships, what role do these types of experiences have in terms of helping young people gain industry experience, and how do they go about securing these types of roles in internships and apprenticeships?
Well, I mean, there are 2 questions there, really, but I think the more interesting one was the second bit.
Go ahead, then.
Which is, how do you get a job? How do you get an apprenticeship? Now, obviously, in our case, that's my job, is to go out and get in front of companies. I mean, they're biting our arm off for this. But it's important that, first of all, they decide what type of job they want in the first place, and then how to make sure everybody knows it. And you need to lift your horizon from wanting a job to wanting a career. You need to lift your horizon to how you align your values to the values of your competence, not industry. So what I mean by that is, some people say, I want it like the last guy was from Spotify. You go, I want to work for Spotify, that's great. What are you going to do there? Right, competence is a transferable skill set that you then become very good at. And I would urge you to think about how you're going to align your competence. And it's interesting, we've got this graduation thing next week, and my students are practicing their speeches. One guy's a Muslim chap, Mohammed, and he did a completely different speech. He started by saying, "Who are your heroes?" And of course, people come out of the usual drool of David Beckham and stuff, and he says his heroes are prophets. And they named the prophets and explained why. One stands for resilience, one stands for honesty, and so forth. For him, what was so exciting is aligning his heroes with his future work. And in his case, he's actually going to go into hospitality. Where did that come from? Well, because the one he's actually going to is a family-owned, and their values are very strong. Honesty, hard work, resilience. He's very good with people, he is now. And for him, this is he's so excited, could not be more excited about what lays in store. He wants to travel the world. He's found his purpose. So I feel that to get into an apprenticeship, you need to first of all align yourself. The other thing I would say is don't try and get to the end goal in one step. So I say to people, you do your apprenticeship. I don't really care where you do it. Just do it. Be on time early. Make sure you never take a day off. I'm not interested in headache days, right? Just turn up, do the work, get on with people, network, be successful. Most apprenticeships are 2 years long. Most degrees are 3 years long a minimum. So do it in 2 years, and then you can start talking to people about your career, not about what you did at school, So go in and make that first step. So I have a guy, finally, who wants to get into aviation. We don't have an aviation client right now, but he's into data analytics. So we're going to get him a data analytics and operations role, and then he can go to BA or whatever and say, I've got all this experience in operations, data analytics, and guess what? The best thing is it's not in your industry, so I can bring something different, and they love that. So just get a decent career, make sure they train you, lift your horizon, and I think you'll do much better.
Okay, that's amazing. And then, obviously, I think lots of people here are probably applying for jobs. We know the job market is really tough. It's right now, it's probably the most difficult it's been in a really long time. And so I just wanted to go around and ask you guys, what tips do you guys have for younger people who are applying? So they've identified the role, they know what they want to do, but the job market is so crowded. How do they stand out? How do they differentiate themselves from everyone else applying?
Sure. I think there's a lot been talked about this already in the different panels and stuff, but and I know it's quite hard for some people as well to be able to put themselves forward. And I always worry about that because there's loads of jobs out there that you don't have to be constantly putting yourself forward, and you can actually work away in the background, and we need people like that across all sorts of different types of industries. But unfortunately, the truth is, for you to be able to stand out, is that you do really have to put yourself forward at that one point in your life. So actually what Keith is doing and what he's trying to help people with is really, really important. So find yourself a mentor. Find yourself somebody. It doesn't need to be somebody that's actually doing what you want to do, but it's just another person that's got a bit more experience, got a bit more, and there's loads and loads of people out there that want to help, right? And people love helping. It helps their ego, it just makes them feel good about life. So go out there, find somebody that you like, that you respect. It could be a family member, it could be somebody from college, university, whatever it might be, and ask them to help you. Let them, crit your work. How did you apply for that? What is that? And the other thing is you might not find the perfect job with your first role or your second role or your third role. Sort of try before you buy. I mean, I didn't go to uni. I ended up getting very stoned on a beach in Thailand because I went traveling. I missed clearing. I really was not a perfect pupil. This was back in the 90s, so it was a long time ago. But then I came in, I just literally took the first opportunity. And I'm not suggesting for a minute that everybody should take the first opportunity, but it gets your foot in the door. It gives you a bit of experience. I managed to get a receptionist role in a fashion agency, and I thought that was cool because it was fashion. And I just basically worked there, and it then opened up the door, because once you've got something under your belt, selling shoes, working in Tesco's, it just demonstrates completely that you have work ethic, that you can turn up, that you can earn money, and it gives you confidence because it gives you experience. So try before you buy and find yourself a mentor.
Amazing. Any more quick tips?
I would, and I'd keep it quick. Getting a job these days is a bit like Squid Game, okay? I mean, I would much rather be honest. It's hard. So don't apply for too many, because I meet young people. I met a lady actually who we have just got a job at Amazon for, who was applying for 50 jobs a week. And that was the problem. You can't do that many applications well. You need to tailor your application. You need to really want that job. You can feel as a recruiter, we operate as a recruiter a lot of the time, you can feel whether people really want that job. So only apply for jobs you really are going to fight for, because there's going to be 100, 120 other people that are going to be you're in competition with. So you've got to treat it like a competition, and you've got to get it right every single game. So Squid Game, got to try hard, don't do too many.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
One quick thing I would add is, and this is going to be tough medicine, be okay with rejection. I know it's easier said than done, but we tend to, especially I think about someone applying 50 times a week, and I used to do that when I was, early in my career. You're going to get a lot of no's. It's hard to do, but you can't take it personal.
Fewer no's if you apply for fewer jobs.
Yes.
That's one of the upsides.
Yes, but sometimes it's just a state of the job market. The one thing I will say is that we make our own luck, right? And sometimes I've gotten a job because I was talking to someone on a panel. I stayed in touch with a client that one day became the CMO of a big company and said, "Lan, I want to bring you in." So it's those small seeds that you're planting. You don't expect to harvest and eat your meal as soon as you plant the seeds, right? You understand that you plant the seeds, and then when it harvests, then you'll be able to have this feast. And I think we want overnight success, and that's not how the job hunt is. And a lot of the planting seeds is building relationships with people. It's building your personal brand. It's applying to jobs. It's about getting extra education, courses, certificates. It's about getting better every day. It's about doing the little things each day to make yourself a better candidate, right? And so don't focus on the yeses or the nos, because you're gonna get a lot of nos. Focus on what are the things that I can control, which is making myself a better person, connecting with people and having authentic relationships, and just keep on doing that daily.
Maybe I can just give some actionable advice on how to get a job, because I had a headhunting firm for 15 years and I know how to do it. Number one, you need to make sure you don't send in a CV and apply for a job like every other Muppet. Okay? Because what are they going to do? You're asking them to judge you on a piece of paper. Stupid. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Number two, why should they hire you? Right, I have a guy who wants to join Mazda. Well, actually, he wants to join a big motoring company, but he wants Mazda. So I went to the CEO of Mazda, is a big fan of our company. And there's a lot of people applying. So my guy gets the job. Why does my guy get the job? Because I'm fucking do it differently. So he goes to Mazda and says, I'll tell you why I want the job. When I was 3, I was given a toy car. Complete bullshit, by the way. Complete made it up. I was given a car. Guess what? It was a Mazda. It was a Mazda car. And I used to play with this toy. And I don't know why, but since I grew up, all I saw was Mazda. I've been following Mazda cars since I was little. That's the opening. Then what does he do? Make sure he knows the evolution of Mazda. Then what does he do? He goes to the CEO of Mazda, and this happened, and he sees what he did on LinkedIn. What was his last post? Okay, great. You're already in the top 5% doing this. Then he looked at the post, and then he wrote and said, I saw you in the last post, you did this, but what I don't understand is why aren't you doing that? So the CEO is going, who the fuck is this guy? He loves Mazda. He wants to call his next son Mazda. And he's already saying, why am I not doing things? This guy's different. Gets the job. Simple. When you're on LinkedIn and you want to look out, fine. But don't do the mass to mass, right? The world out there is multi, right? And you're one. You're the individual. How do you stand out? You've got, just by preparation, you will stand out. Don't just hand in a CV and say, here you go, work it out yourself, mate. Do you think I'm good? I don't know. Have a look. Put it in their face. Why are you different? So you just find these differences. So you have to be individual to the company, to the role, to the person, and evidence it. It takes half an hour. If you can't bother, don't get the job, don't deserve it. Okay? That's how you do it. When you go on LinkedIn, make sure that you have posted something that is reminiscent, that is in line with what they posted as well. This is what professionals do all the time. So that's what you need to do. Do not apply with a CV and hope that they will just work it out, because there's thousands of you.
100%. So I think biggest takeaway from that, and I think a nice way to wrap up this session, be intentional and be bold. Make sure you're putting yourself out there in front of the right people, build your personal brand, and just go for it. And nothing is forever. You have all the time in the world.
Can I say one last thing? You're not on your own. Network. Right, I'm here, these guys are here, network. If you're not following Diverse Futures, what the hell are you doing? You know, if you're not following them, if you're not going to her festival, it doesn't matter, because all about Margate, or you know, or see Lisa. Look at who she knows on LinkedIn.
Ooh.
Exactly. We're all here to help. And even if we're not, like the guy Darren from Spotify, if you want to work at Spotify, get in front of his face. You know how to do it. You know, you're not on your own. You are not on your own.
100%. So do you guys want to shout out just like where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Dina Green, D-I-N-A.
Okay, so we're ready to start the next session. So our next session will be deep dive into cultural aspects affecting career choices. Okay. Yes. Guys, I'm normally okay, but I'm really shy today. I don't know what's happened, but yeah, I'm really shy. So just bear with me. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so I'm really excited to introduce you guys to Janae, founder and managing director of Talwa. Yeah, did I get that correctly? Hold over. I'm going to just move for you. Sorry for me. And then I'm going to call over to the stage Elsie, community manager at Guap magazine and founder of Our Peoples. I'm just going to step over. And last but not least, Marsha, founder of Believe. And she's kindly stepped in as well for this panel. So thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to you, Janae, to host this panel.
It's literally hit 12 on the dot. So good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone feeling today? Good. How's everyone feeling today? Good. Want to bring some energy in the room? Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Janae Marie. I am the founder and managing director of Talwa Agency, which is an events and consultancy agency. We work with brands, we work with people. Yeah, it's a great job, but I'm moderating the panel today, so I won't be talking very much. I am honoured to be alongside Elsie and Marsha. Can you please give them a round of applause? Thanks. And today we'll be discussing, basically a deep dive into cultural aspects affecting career choices. So, Elsie, Marsha, if you could please introduce yourselves, that would be amazing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elsie Ayatunde Cullen, and I am the community manager at Guap magazine, which is a youth-led media platform for young emerging creatives. And I'm also the founder of Our Peoples, which is a creative community platform working with creativity and culture to push development.
My name is Marsha Powell. I'm the founder of a girls' charity called Belle Eve. We work with girls between the age of 8 to 22, supporting them in raising their confidence, self-esteem, and we are out to develop the next female leaders generation. Yeah.
What an amazing introduction. I'm actually really glad I have you both on the panel because the questions are aligned perfectly with the work that you both do. So if you could both speak to me about the importance of representation and having role models from diverse cultural backgrounds, that would be amazing because I can envisage, for me personally, having my parents and growing up in Croydon, South London, repping South London here, woo! That's definitely helped the trajectory of my career and where I've gone and why I feel like diverse people are very important within our ecosystem. So yeah, how's it impacted the both of you?
I think right throughout my career history, I've been really blessed to have
been part of various programs such as African Caribbean Diversity that took me to Cambridge when I was 14. They did a lot of like educational work with us in terms of like understanding ourselves and our place within the education realm at that time. But I think even more recently, I recently started an initiative called Black at Glasgow. I've been going to Glastonbury for the last 10 years, and this year I started an initiative bringing together black people that go to Glastonbury Festival, because there's not a lot of us that are there. And so the initiative really was just to just provide a space for us to connect. And I think it did really well on socials. And for the last 10 years, I've been working on a particular stage that is run by a black man, Ray. And with the success of Black at Glasgow, he's been there by my side to say, okay, Elsie, next year, we have to do this. Elsie, next year, ownership, this, that, and the other. And I think just having someone that I know is as passionate about my culture, as passionate about our people in the same way that I am, it gives a different level of like safety with the idea that I have. There's a lot of cultural nuance that he's able to offer me in terms of how to navigate certain spaces, how to navigate conversations around ownership, etc. That I think having that relation, that cultural relation, just makes me feel like I'm held throughout this process. So I think navigating the business scape can be really scary, especially if you're not coming from a background where you're being taught how to, walk into certain rooms and claim up space. But I think having someone there that speaks the language that I speak, metaphorically, that has my best interest and has my culture's best interest at heart, I think it just makes everything feel a lot safer. So yeah.
So I come at this from a very different perspective. So my career was in finance. So I worked for the financial regulators, and I started there when I was 19, in a room most of the time with people that don't look like me. So I had to really understand who I was within those spaces. But I've stepped away, and I've created an organisation that supports girls in being confident in being in those spaces and making sure that the doors are open for them in those spaces, because opportunities and experiences are so important. And when you don't have role models who are in finance or in marketing, sometimes you can be quite limited in your own horizons. So I just make sure that girls get into the rooms and see women that look like them so they can believe that they can. And that's my purpose in this whole space.
This is how I know you've been at the other panels, because purpose has been like the buzzword today. I feel like, especially you working in finance, my mum works in finance as well, and yeah, she's a black woman and she's gone through loads of challenges herself. Have you ever experienced any cultural barriers within that space, and what has led you obviously to go to the trajectory of starting up your own organisation?
So 100%. As a young 18-year-old girl, quite confident at the time, I was told I was bolshy. I was told that I had a chip on my shoulder because I speak quite different. Sometimes I was told I was aggressive. No, I'm not aggressive, just know what I want. However, what I was able to do in that space is gain allies, so people who understood me. So when people had negative things to say about me as a young black woman, they could say, no, actually, you've got that wrong. You're actually misinterpreting Marsha as a person. And having those allies and those cheerleaders really helped my career. So I wanted to be a HR business partner. I joined this organisation as an administrator with only GCSEs. I left with a H&C, a degree, and a master's in this organisation.
Talk about it. Well done. That's amazing.
And I became a HR business partner because I made sure that people knew that's what I wanted. So I was vocal, but also I did the work. So that was really important.
Definitely. Elsie, I'm actually excited for this question because I'm honoured to know you and love you dearly outside of this room. But separately, I also understand your journey and everything that you've gone through. So I guess the question for you is, what ways do you incorporate your cultural identity, your heritage, and your history into the work that you do?
I think I'm really fortunate in the sense that I get to work full-time in the creative space. Previous to being a community manager and kind of like doing this kind of creative work, I was a nurse, and it's a really different environment to the environment that I work in now. And I think the space that I'm in now, kind of like what one of the previous panels was saying, like, I'm allowed to be authentic. I'm allowed to bring my ideas. I'm allowed to program things that, that are interesting to me, because I know that, again, my position, or no, I think it's the authenticity. I think being a part of the culture and being a part of this creative space and being part of the community, there's a lived experience that is unfallible in terms of like the way that you show up. And I think I feel very blessed and really grateful that having like lived and breathed this community since I was like 14, I can say that I know you. Do you know what I mean? I can say that I've worked with like Kobe Adam, who directed a series with Sky. I can say that I've worked with people, and then these are the people that I get to grow up with. I get to curate stuff. I get to program stuff with. And I think just being like living and breathing and being part of it, it just makes. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I don't feel like I have to navigate being authentic in my work, because it's just what I do. Do you know what I mean? I think being a part of it, showing up for people, showing up for other people's events, other people's opportunities, really engaging with the community and the culture, I think that's what allows you to navigate the space authentically and to the best of your ability. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you've answered it perfectly.
But yeah, I think being really engaged in the community means that like you're planting seeds for 5-10 years to come, so that when you are in positions where you're able to like program events or program certain things, it's just natural to you because you've been doing it and engaging it for the last few years.
I literally said to, Sophia very well, runs free books festival. If you guys are around from the 9th to 21st, you should go, it's great. We were saying on the phone, literally, this doesn't feel like work to us. It's just like a regular day for us. Doing community work is not something that's a chore. It's just something that we do. So thank you so much for answering that. I know there's those people in the room that want to rather get into the creative industry, are already in the creative industry, or are keen to know any advice that you guys could both carry.
Sorry, just to add on to that, I have an example from a good friend of mine, Shani Mears. She's the co-founder of a platform called Elephant Room, and she was saying that she was previously working for an ad agency, and when she was there, she didn't really see a lot of like culture being programmed or being spoken about in the space. So what she did is she created a newsletter by herself off her own back, which she sent to everyone in the company every week. That would just be giving her updates and insights into her community and into her culture. And because of off the back of that, again, this is just off her back, something that she's been doing just for the love of it. And I think off the back of that, the CEO of that company left the company and started a new business with Shani. And I think someone that was saying it before, you have to create your own luck. And I think when you live and breathe yourself and you feel bold enough to do that, the opportunities come and the space creates itself. Sorry.
No, I'm so glad you mentioned that. There's loads of people, myself included, like I had an amazing job before I started my own company. And I know, I think it was Darren's talk actually, he mentioned there was a lot of momentum around the George Floyd moment, and quote unquote, once that was done, you could literally see around the tech space, the music space, the creative space. There wasn't much budget into black activations. There wasn't much budget into amplifying people of color. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it myself then. And throughout that space, I've been able to cross paths again with the likes of Elsie and multiple people in this room. So it's super important. And I'm so glad you shared that story of Shani, because she's amazing. And the Elephant Room is thriving. Like, they're doing amazing stuff for Pride, Black History Month, outside of those said months as well, which is super important for brands to tap in and get involved in. For both of you, what advice would you give to young people from diverse backgrounds and specifically into creating I can't even speak today. What advice would you give to young people from diverse cultural backgrounds who aspire to enter the creative industry? I landed.
So I always say get a mentor. So everything we do is underpinned by mentoring. I can't express more the importance of having a mentor. Someone who can support your next steps, someone who can open doors, someone who can connect you, because human capital, you can't quantify it. And therefore, if you have someone that's your cheerleader and supporting you, then you're one step ahead of someone who's just knocking doors.
For me, I think my advice would be to just do it. whatever it is that you like, that you want to do, just do it. I remember years and years ago, I wanted to do an exhibition. Didn't have a venue, so I did it in my house. My parents were away. So I did an exhibition in my house, invited all my friends around. Had art in the toilets, on the walls. And people came. It's such a random thing to do. But I think it's that spirit of like, whatever it is you want to do, just do it. GWOP started off as a community newsletter for the university, you know, and 9 years later, you know, doing amazing things from the GWOP Gala to working with various brands. You just have to start. Perfection is a never-ending goal that everyone's continuously chasing. If you don't start somewhere, you never get to the end point. You never get to the idea of perfection. So you just have to start and allow yourself to grow and make mistakes along the way. There is no right time to start. Just start, and the steps will follow you. You will run like you've never run before in order to catch up. But yeah, you just have to start.
So, on the mentor point as well, I'd say I have multiple mentors in the industry, but separately to that, it's so, my dad tells me this all the time to the point where it's annoying, but he's right. Like, you can never make the first impression twice. That's one thing he's always said to me. And I never understood what that meant until I was in the industry myself. Like, I can use, I don't know if Lisa's even here at the moment, but Lisa's, she is, where's she gone? Hey, she's the best example. I remember I left Brit when I was 17 because I did a BTEC, so before A-levels, I left. I couldn't find a job in the industry for ages. I was literally applying for over 100 jobs in like a year. It's a thing. And that was back then because I didn't have any experience at the time. I did an internship, and off the back of that, I met my mentor, Ria Hebden, and then she introduced me to the Mobo team. This was back in, it's not even that long to be honest, it's like 2017. I met Lisa there when I was 17/18 years old. And literally now we've been able to produce and do some really sick stuff together, as in this panel today. So yeah, I'm saying all of that to say, like, you can never make the first impression twice. So it's important.
Also, we have a really strong philosophy at GWOP, which is to network horizontally. And that is to network and make friends and create stuff with the people that are on your level or people, your peers. A lot of us seek for people that are above us. And I think it's amazing to do that and get mentors. But at the same time, it's equally important to network, create, and try stuff out with those that are in your circle. So your friends, people that you see online that are doing emerging stuff, people that you think, oh, that's a small platform. Do you know what I mean? But your platform's small as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, do stuff together and build. Like, build with those that are on your level, because at the end of the day, you don't know where people will be in the next 5-10 years. And the relationships that you begin that start as seeds, like, you don't know how much they'll grow and flourish. So, yeah, like, network horizontally as much as you can as well.
Defo. I think this is an important question for the both of you again. I know there's brands in the room, there's people that represent brands in the room. How important is it for brands to actually tap into organizations that support young girls? How important is it for brands to tap into our peoples, where you are doing a lot of development work, creative work within different communities of people? How important is it for brands to actually pump money and not just invest by ads or other stuff? Like, how important is it for your brand and your company as well?
It's extremely important. I think we talk about gender equality, we talk about diversity, and it starts with the brands and the organisations in terms of opening the doors. My organisation can do everything to change mindsets, to increase skill sets, to increase employability, but if the brands and the organisations do not open the doors to girls or women of colour, then we're not going to achieve gender equality, and the diversity that they talk about, they will not achieve. So it is about working collaboratively and in partnership. And yes, it is about putting your money where your mouth is. You know, as a community organisation, I'm not here to do your work. I'm here to work with you in order to achieve success for not just you, but for the greater world, because everything we do is about making the world a better place for my great-great-grandchildren. So yeah.
I'd say probably, like, obviously, like, funding is really important, because I mean, like, a lot of people that are starting platforms or, you know, yes, on organizations, a lot of us are not doing this off of like generational wealth, or, do you know what I mean, having access to large seed investment. And so I think having that capital is so important for us to be able to run these ideas and initiatives and projects sustainably. At the same time, I think whilst funding is great, I think there's also a level of extra support that is needed and would be, I think, beneficial. So, like, a lot of companies and brands will work with agencies who will do most of their work in terms of whether it be creating campaigns or leading certain initiatives. And I think being able to work with smaller organizations to help develop their skills and develop their industry access and knowledge is really important, especially for those of us that are not coming from that corporate ad space, because like navigating the brand world and the different sheets, spreadsheets they have, Excel sheets,
budget
the documents they need, etc. It can be a bit of a whirlwind and a mind map for those that don't necessarily have that industry or commercial experience. And I think there is a level of teaching and peer teaching that can be done and should be done, I think, with small organizations that don't necessarily have that background, and some grace as well. I think working with a small agency that's just started versus working with an agency that's been here for like 100 years, I think it's completely different, and I think the expectations should be different. At the same time, I think there is a level of co-working, like you said, and collaboration that should be happening to make sure that new organizations do have that level of skill and expertise, not only in managing that particular project, but I think also in going forward. So I think, there's
It's a lot more that brands should be doing, ultimately. Slightly, obviously. I'm conscious of time as well. We've got an amazing panel after this that I will be staying for. So my last question, I guess, and also a comment. Sorry to throw you guys on here, but is there a brand or is there a company or a charity at the moment that you could mention that you think is doing amazing work? Like, for example, I can just shout out the top of my head, Quanda's doing a lot of work. On Windrush Day, they expanded their funding from Africa into the Caribbean, which is a really interesting time at the moment because of Hurricane Beryl. So shout out Jackson. Black Curatorial, Alia and the team, they've released a fund to basically raise at least £100,000 for people in need in the Caribbean, which is amazing, where brands and organizations have actually come together. So if you guys ever have a minute, make sure you fund to that charity. But that's one shout out. I want to see if you two had any brands you want to shout out as well.
I want to shout out someone in the room. Black Girls in Design, led by Sandra here. They're working with young girls, getting them into design, helping them to kind of like develop the knowledge, the skills, and giving them experience. And so, shout out to Sandra and Black Girls in Design.
I'm going to shout out Sandra as well.
No pressure.
No, Sandra is doing amazing stuff for Black Girls in Design. But also she works really closely with us at Belle Eve and really helping us to make sure that the voices are heard of the girls that we work with. But another organisation that we are currently working with is an organisation called Curve. So they're a tech company and they are really dedicated to getting more young women into tech, but also young Black and brown women into tech. So we'll be working really closely with them over the next couple of years to make that happen.
Amazing. We're actually right on time. Do you have any further comments before we close? You sure, Ozzy?
Shout out Janae, who's doing amazing work. Big up Janae all the time. Janae has done an amazing job at working across the community, the creative, the ad space, everything that you do, and your work is so integral. Yes, feel it all. Your work is so integral, and it's led with such care, and I think it's so important as a lot of work that's now being done is kind of like purpose-driven work or social impact-driven work. I think having people like Janae in these spaces that really care about what they do and create campaigns with care from the start of the process all the way throughout to the end of the delivery, I think is so important. So shout out you, Janae.
That was so sweet. Oh my gosh. I'll cry when I leave the room. But anyway, thank you all so much for taking your time out today to watch this amazing panel. Please, when you have a minute, invest. Please speak to Elsie. Please speak to Marsha. They're amazing women. My name is Janae Marie. Thank you so much for having us today, and speak soon.
Okay, guys, so I'm really, really excited to open up the next session, which is a different dynamic to what we've had today. So it's actually going to be a coaching session delivered by Sarah and Rebecca from the Coaching Catalyst. So if Sarah and Rebecca are here, I'm going to welcome you onto the stage. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Hello, everybody.
I think I'll come that way.
Okay, right. Yay! Here we are.
So I
said to Sarah before this, I was like, I need to use the loo. And she's like, no, I think we're up next. So bear with us on this one. So welcome. Thank you very much for inviting us, Lisa, to speak. And I'm going to let Sarah kick off with what we're doing today.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Rebecca. So lovely to meet you all. Hasn't it been fantastic, those of you who've been here for the panel discussions so far today? It's been absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. So my name's Sarah Bramall. This is Rebecca Daniel, and together we are the Coaching Catalysts. So what do we do at the Coaching Catalysts?
So what we do in our business is we support coaches, professionals, and amazing people like you. We support them in their personal and their professional development. We don't see that as balancing that. We see it as an integration between the two. We support with confidence, support with well-being, ethical practice, and we do that via coaching, supervision, and training. And I've heard a lot today about the power of mentoring, and we're going to talk to you today about the power of coaching and how that can impact you.
Super.
So in this session today, we're going to be talking to you about confidence. Now, the most amazing thing today is on every panelist that we've seen, every speaker that we've seen, there's threads of confidence that has been discussed and been spoken about. So we're going to be talking about how you can explore what confidence means to you. We're also going to be sharing our own confidence journey, empowering you to think about people that inspire you so that you can think about your own role model as well, and sharing some super strategies that can help you to really elevate in all areas.
So over to you, everybody sitting there. I'd like you to put your hand up for me if you identify as being confident. So if you would say, yeah, I'm a confident person, thank you. Well done, this is good.
Like,
Keep your hand up if you are always confident. Keep your hand in the air if you're always confident. Okay, thank you. Well done, you, and you need to be on this stage. Yay! But that's it, isn't it? That lots of us, even when we identify as being confident, we're not necessarily confident in every area of our lives or with all people, because it's situational, and our confidence can fluctuate according to who we're with and the situation that we're in. And those of us who didn't put our hands up and didn't identify as being confident, that's okay too. We're all different. But what we want to share with you today is that confidence isn't just something that you're born with. It's not just a trait that you have or you don't have. For all of us, confidence is a muscle that can be developed and flexed over time.
And so with that muscle, what happens is when we don't develop it, when we don't use it, like any other muscle in our body, it can weaken. So the trick here is that we step out of our comfort zone again and again and again, even when we're feeling like it's a little bit uncomfortable, even when we're feeling like it's a little bit tough. And so confidence is the most important mental muscle that we have. And as Sarah has said, when we are looking at enhancing our confidence, it's about the people that we have around us. It's about the environment. So our confidence changes depending on where we're at. So if I'm at home, I feel like I'm the most confident person. I'm ruling the house. I'm already there, strutting my stuff. But when I'm here, you might be thinking, it's okay for you, Sarah and Rebecca. You look really, really confident. But we've had to do the work. So with confidence, we're looking at enhancing the people that we have, the environment. We're looking at the experiences. And when we're looking at confidence as well, it's about inner and outer confidence. And Sarah's going to share with you a bit about how our brain worked when it comes to enhancing our confidence.
Thank you. So confidence is in our minds and it's also in our bodies. Now, the tricky thing is that our brains were not designed to make us happy. We've got brains that were designed to keep us safe from danger. So we've got brains that are wired to be negative, that are going to replay for us that negative voice of the stuff that went wrong in the past and the stuff that might go wrong in the future. Now, evolutionary, that served us really, really well because it kept us safe in the past from eating those poisonous berries or made us think twice before we went out and encountered that saber-toothed tiger. But the problem is, in the modern day, is that that negative mind can get a bit overactivated. So on the way here today, that negative little voice is saying to me, oh, Sarah, don't think you should come to MadFest today because you might make a fool of yourself, you might not be able to get the tech right, you might trip up as you come onto the stage, Rebecca might not show up. all
Or
of
be
that
late.
stuff, or be late. All of that stuff's going on. And so what we need to be able to do is to take control of that voice, of the negative mind, so that it doesn't sit in the driving seat of our brains. So I walk around with my little friend Brian, and I did catch myself on the train on the way here, sitting with Brian on my lap and thought, oh God, what am I doing? But Brian really, really helps me because he is that negative voice who goes, hey Sarah, you'd probably be best to stay at home today, sit on the sofa and eat a packet of digestive biscuits. Because I don't want you going to London today to put yourself in danger, to speak in front of other people. You might make a fool of yourself. Now, what I have to do with Brian is not just to go, oh, shut up, Brian, you're boring me, but actually to go, all right, Brian, thank you, because I see you're trying to keep me safe. He's the voice of my subconscious trying to keep me safe from danger. So what I have to do with Brian is take him out, give him a little stroke, and go, thank you, you're trying to keep me safe, but do you know what, Brian? I'm okay. I've got this. It's safe for me to do this. In fact, it's good for me to do this because when I do something that's stretching me out of my comfort zone, that's a sign for me that I'm learning and I'm growing.
Now, I don't have a Brian, but I do have an internal resource which I'm going to share with you. But Sarah's spoken to us a bit about how our brain works. Now, I'm going to talk to you about how our body works. So what's really, really cool is our body doesn't recognize the difference between excitement and fear. And so physiologically, our body will respond in the same way. That hormone of adrenaline that courses through us when we're really, really excited about something or when we're really scared about something is exactly the same. And when we talk about how our body responds to that fear or excitement, my goodness, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll share with you a bit about how my body responds, and I want to see if you resonate. So our heart can race. Anyone ever feel that when they're excited or scared? Our palms can become sweaty. We can sometimes feel like we're trembling. So sometimes you know when you're standing on the stage and you feel like maybe your legs are wobbling and everyone can see it. Probably a trick why I've worn a long dress today. So when we're looking at how we're going to really focus on how we're going to regulate our body, what we need to do is we need to tell our brains, yes, that we're safe, but we also need to reframe that feeling, that internal feeling. So we need to train our brains to go, hey, this isn't fear that I'm feeling, this is excitement. And so when we can start to really feed ourselves with this language, because our brains can learn and relearn up until the day that we die. And that's really, really cool to know that. So they're interconnected in the brain. It's the same physiological response. And so when we can start to go, okay, I'm going to manage my thoughts, I'm going to manage my feelings, and when I manage that, my emotions can regulate, and then I can take action, I can do. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Oprah, that is the absolute legend of Oprah, was interviewing Beyonce in 2008. And she was asking Beyonce, how do you strut your stuff? How do you stand on stage? How do you do all the amazing things that you do? And so Beyonce said, well, it isn't me. She said, what do you mean it's not you? And she said, well, that's Sasha. Sasha is the one that comes on stage. Sasha is the one that struts her stuff. So when she hears the music, when she wears her high heels, or stilettos as she's called, and she walks on stage, Sasha takes over. And when Sasha takes over, the posture changes, the way that she speaks changes. And it's not just Beyonce that has a Sasha. If you look at Clark Kent, aka Superman, or Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, you can tell I watch way too many DC and Marvel films here. I do actually work, yeah. But if you look fictionally as well, they all have alter egos. And psychologists call this self-distancing. It's an extreme form of self-distancing, taking yourself and embodying somebody else. I had someone called Phoenix when I was in university. Another reference to Jean Grey in X-Men. I told you I watched too many. And Phoenix was the firebird, red, and it regenerates every single time. And so it's no surprise that I have a red car or a red phone cover, because I feel empowered when I have that. Shout out to Lisa in the red dress as well. So who's up for coming up with their own alter ego? I'm hoping you're going to put your hands up. Thank you. Some people are not sure. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes with me. Yes. And you can use your personal agency to opt out of this if you want. And as you close your eyes, I want you to think about becoming. I want you to think about somebody that you admire, that you respect for their confidence. Someone that you look at and go, oh, they exude confidence. I want a bit of that. I can see some people peeking. I can see you. And so what it is about that person, as they're approaching you, how is it that they're walking, smiling? What's their movement like? What are they wearing from their head to their toes? And as you're in front of this person, I'm going to ask you to engage in conversation with them. How do they talk? What's their pace and their volume like, their tone, their pitch, their style? What is it about them that they're saying that you love? What's their values? What's the themes that come up? Now, as you say farewell to that person, before you open your eyes, I'd love you to borrow something from them. Whether it's the walk, whether it's the style, whether it's the tone, just borrow something. Something that can really help you to enhance your confidence. And I'm going to invite you to come back into the room. So I know there were some peekers there, but that's okay, because I know you still were probably doing the activity. Now, this person doesn't have to be real, can be imagined, can be fictional. But who do you need to become to be your bravest, baddest, boldest version of yourself? And I'm going to say, I was an English teacher before I became a coach, and I'm like, baddest isn't in the dictionary, but if Rihanna can call herself Bad Girl Riri, then I'm going to take it. But who do you need to become? What is it about you that you need to do to find your brave? So Sarah's going to share another secret with you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Lots of food for thought there. And we'd love you to talk to us after this about who your alter ego is, who your character is. But we're going to bring together what we've shared today. So I've talked to you about Brian and the brain. Rebecca's spoken to you about the body and using an alter ego. And now we're going to bring it together. So I'm going to invite you to join me in standing up, please. I know we've all been sitting for a while. Thank you. So I'm going to invite you to stand up, because we're going to work together today to strike a pose. Because what happens in the body impacts on what happens in the mind. The body and the mind work together. Thank you. Yeah, don't be shy. So when you're standing, I'd first of all like you to make sure that your feet are planted on the ground so that your weight is evenly distributed. That's brilliant. Because what that helps us do is it helps us to connect to the ground. It helps us to feel stable and to feel secure. And the next thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to give me a great big smile. Oh, thank you. Because when you smile, and even when you fake that smile, it triggers neuropeptides in the brain, which make your brain think more positively. And lots of you are doing this already, but I'm noticing a lot of really open body language. So your chests are open. Some of you have put your hands on your hips already. And what that does is it impacts on your breath. And when it impacts on your breath, it means your body is taking in more oxygen. And when you take in more oxygen, it's giving your brain the signal it is safe for you to calm down. So standing firmly, smiling, open body language, all good so far. And now I'm going to go a bit further and share with you some research done by a scientist in the States, Amy Cuddy, who's got a brilliant TED Talk called How Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are. And she shares in that TED Talk the research that she did with candidates going for interview. And she invited them to take a power pose. There's 2 ways to do this. Like this, with your arms in the air, or if you prefer, it's a bit more comfortable, I think, the Wonder Woman with your hands on your hips. And I'm going to ask you to hold that now for 2 minutes while I finish talking. Thank you. And you're still smiling. Because when you do this, and this is brilliant posing, everybody, what this is doing for you is it's lowering the cortisol in your body. It's lowering your stress response. It's also increasing your testosterone, your dominance response. And so you are physiologically changing the chemical makeup of your body, which impacts on your brain. And when you hold that for 2 minutes before going into an interview, speaking on a stage, having a challenging conversation, or doing anything else that's going to challenge you, you have got that in your toolkit anytime you need to dial up that confidence. You can do it in public if you like, or you can go to the bathroom and do it privately. Either way, it still works. Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much. You may sit and relax.
Now, I know when you're doing your power pose, even if it's for the first time, you're probably thinking, I feel a little bit silly. But when you're going on a date or you're doing something that you're really, really scared of, do not tell me that you don't look in the mirror and gear yourself up. You don't look at your outfit and you don't just talk to yourself in the mirror, and it's the same. We can't argue with science. Neuroscience is fact. We can't argue with that. So give it a go, even if you feel silly. And again, when you do it, you'll become more comfortable and confident with it. So before we leave you today, we'd love for you to get your phones out. And the person sitting to the left or the right of you, left and right of you, they are going to be your new confidence besties, your accountability partners. If you've got a rubbish one sitting next to you, I can see over there the facial. Oh, right. Maybe look behind. Maybe look behind you. Yeah. And so they are there to keep you accountable. And so what we would love for you to do is take a little selfie with your confidence bestie. Thank you, Lisa. Good. And tag DG Learners. We also would love you to tag MadFest, tag the Coaching Catalyst, and add, I am most confident when. I am most confident when. Do you need a bestie? I'll be your bestie. Cool. Thank you, Lisa, so much for today. Sarah.
Thank you so much, everybody. And do come and connect with us over on socials as the Coaching Catalyst. Thank you.
All right, guys, we've made it to the final session. So I'm really, really excited to firstly, thank you. I'm excited to firstly introduce you to our host, which is going to be Liba, our DigiLearning ambassador. Anything for the content. Anything for the content. So I'm going to pass this over to you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to move over because we have a bigger lineup this time of panelists. Okay, so I'm going to start with Gordon Mack from MySoul. And next we have Nikki Sagal from General Manager at Media for All. And Nedu BC, did I get it right? Almost, okay, maybe next time. Okay. Co-founder of Word on the Curb. And last but not least, Chloe Downs. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to leave you with Liba. Take it away, guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much to everyone who is in attendance today. Today we're going to learn so many amazing things. We've got so many brains to pick. So we're just going to get straight into it. The first thing that I wanted to discuss with everyone here is what are the key components of an inclusive workplace and how can we ensure that companies are fostering environments where you feel safe, valued and supported?
Who's going to start with
You guys take it away. Will you tell me? There's a mic.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe. I'm the founder and CEO of Shift. We're an influencer talent management agency. We manage a range of incredible creators from food, someone in the front, but I won't shout him out because he'll be stressed. Food, fashion, activism, all sorts. But yeah, remind me of the question. Sorry, I've just been speaking about myself.
That's all right. What are the key components of an inclusive workplace?
One of the key things I've done at Shift to promote an inclusive workspace is our hiring structure, which I think we're going to go into a bit more detail later, so I won't speak about it too much. But I think ensuring that our hiring structure is structured in a way where everyone has the same access to be able to get a job. So there's limited barriers to entry to ensure that people can get a job. I also think I've tried to create a workspace where everyone feels comfortable to be able to talk and express their opinions. I think what I found in past roles is that you're a bit worried about saying something, and quite often if you were someone who wasn't from a diverse background, you'd be scared to speak up because you wasn't 100% sure if you'd be told, oh, that's something you can't say that, or oh, that's racist, when actually if you just allow people to be able to speak and not feel judged, you're just going to have way more kind of open and honest conversations, and actually people have the chance to learn rather than kind of being too scared to say something just in case someone's offended by it. Obviously not going around saying offensive stuff, but just trying to create a kind of a welcoming environment for everyone to be able to speak in.
That makes complete sense. And I think another thing that would really help in that kind of sector is having more people that look like you anyway. Like if I, for example, see someone that looks like me in a room, I'm more likely to say something that I'd be comfortable with because I'm not worried about anything else, because at least one person here I can connect with.
100%, but unfortunately that's not always the case, and I think if you are a person of color, if you're LGBTQ+, whatever it is, I think even if you're the only person in the room, which unfortunately quite often that is the case, you need to ensure that if you are kind of straight white male kind of workforce, you're still creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable to be able to share their feelings. And I think actually that allowing that comfort is also for the people that aren't from diverse backgrounds, because actually those are the people that should hopefully feel that they could say things and ask things and learn more without the fear of backlash of, oh, you shouldn't have said that. So I think that kind of comfort needs to be both sides to ensure that everyone's learning and growing.
No, I really love that concept. I completely agree. Is there anyone else that would like to add anything?
Yeah, I guess, so hi everyone, my name's Undu, co-founder and CEO of Word on the Curb. We're an insight and content agency. We work with the likes of Just Eat, Spotify, Google, to ultimately get them to get better at understanding and engaging so-called hard-to-reach audiences. So for us, like we always say, diversity is a reality and inclusion is a choice. And I'll never stop saying that because, you know, the world is innately diverse, this room's diverse, everywhere you go, because everyone's different. But whether you choose to include that diversity is a choice that historically most industries have chosen not to, and often purposefully. And just like adding something to what you said, like the reality is optics is one thing, optics is great, but you know, for the last few years we've seen every organization under the sun want to do schemes that increase workplace diversity, but oftentimes it's just at the bottom, it's at the ground, and then there's nothing in the organization that allows for upward mobility or trajectory, or you know, allows for that increased diversity in the workforce to actually thrive and prosper. So it needs to be beyond the optics. It needs to be like understanding how measures can be put in place to support the diverse reality of the world in the workplace. You know, whether that's the month of Ramadan and Muslims fasting, or, you know, I saw this funny post on LinkedIn, as you'll often find funny posts on LinkedIn, and it was, you know, the LGBTQI plus community don't want, you know, a rainbow flowered party in your office, especially if there aren't things in place that support the realities of their world. Once you get that in place, then you can have the party. That's the reality, right? So yeah, that's what I'd say to that question.
That is really interesting. It talks on like the idea of performative diversity as well. So just doing diversity to tick a box, and like you said, quote unquote, on the outside, showing that they're diverse and inclusive. However, their policies are not standing for the same things. So that is a really interesting concept.
Hi everyone, I'm Nikki, the General Manager of a not-for-profit social enterprise called Media for All. We support Black, Asian, ethnic minorities working in media and advertising. So created in 2017, really took shape in 2020 where we were at 50 members. Today we have over 1,000 members working in the industry. And off the back of the Advertising Association's All-In Census in 2021, we conducted our own research, which was Me for Measures, just to get a deeper dive into DE&I within the industry and actually look at people of colour's experiences of working in the industry on a very deeper level. So what we found is, in terms of what you said about the perception, we found that it was a perception gap in terms of diversity coming in at a very junior level and senior level, seeing all this diversity coming in, thinking that they've made progress within their companies, but actually when you're speaking to the individuals that are coming in either junior level or mid-level, feeling like they're not supported.
Yeah.
It looks diverse, but it's not inclusive. They don't feel like those environments are for them, and I think it just goes back to knowing the makeup of your organizations and actually providing, having provisions in place for those individuals to feel like they can flourish and feel like they're supported. And again, to your point, that you're not going to get that diverse makeup in all organizations, but that's not to say you won't feel comfortable there or you won't feel like you belong. Little things that will go a long way. So I had one of our sponsors, one of the employees there said, actually, while the company might not be that diverse, she actually came back to the industry wearing a hijab after many years. And she said little things like asking, about socials, what kind of options do we have? Not making it all centered around alcohol and actually finding different ways to include all the teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to eradicate that culture because there's people that, they want to do those things. But actually just finding different ways and means to include everyone and not just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
My name's Gordon Mack. I'm somewhat older than most of the people on this stage here today. I started up Kiss FM as a pirate station in '85 and got it from pirate to PLC. Hated PLC because it was run by white men in the city, and so came out and got out of Kiss. Got bored, spent loads of money that I'd earned before, and went back and started up a radio station called MySoul Radio, which is a kind of a post-Kiss generation station for people that are 45 to dead. Now, I come from a totally different angle from everybody on this stage because my whole life I've been surrounded by every colour, creed, age of people, because what I do is I select people that are best at playing the music and then employ them. So if it's Natty B, because he does the Best Reggae chart, I choose Natty B, and it doesn't matter to me if he's black, green, yellow, whatever. So I come from a slightly different background from what everyone here is trying to achieve, which I think is quite admirable. Where I do come from is making all the different colours and creeds and everything all mix and feel at home together, so that everybody we are kind of a set of people of interest. We all love music. Everybody that works within MySoul, whether it's Ronnie Harrell, who's from Antigua, or whether it's George Caves from Cyprus, or whether it's, it doesn't matter where or what, it's just kind of everybody loves the music, and it's making everybody feel comfortable in the workplace. And I think that one of the things for that is to get a harmonious feeling amongst everybody. And as a manager, and that's all I kind of have ever been since 1985, is an MD, a managing director, is to listen to people and to encourage and never shut doors and just kind of never be closed to anything, because so many people, when they're at work, they've got so much inside that they want to get out, but they're so scared to get it out in case the door shuts or they feel rejected or they feel... And I feel that, one of the best things to do as a manager is to, from my point of view anyway, is to open the door and just, and I sit in the middle of my office. I've got my digital guy, Lloyd, who... he doesn't see people, he just sees green numbers going up and down. I mean, he's a computer buff. I've got him who sits next to me. I've got my head of programming, George, who sits across from me. I've got Roche, who sits next to me on the other side. And everybody, we all sit in the one office. We don't have a higher structure or anything like that. We all sit together and work together and play together, it must be said, and enjoy music together. So I come from a slightly different kind of setup here. That's all I've got to say, really. I should do a little dance, sing a song later on. No, go on.
No, that's amazing, and it does touch on our next point, which is, can you give examples of initiatives that have been successful within your organization that kind of like gear towards bringing more diversity and inclusion?
It's always a good one. I'll start down there. Go on.
We'll mix it up, if not. Yeah, exactly. We'll start. Well, I've got the mic. Initiative. I don't know. To me, being honest, I think initiatives are a bit of the problem. I think when companies create initiatives and have like KPIs to them, it completely devoids what the reality that I said earlier, which is that diversity is a reality. And just what was said here is like, we live in a country which is made up of multiple cultures, languages, religions, and when you're in any kind of industry, surely like the whole point is that you're trying to engage with as many people as you can, whether that's like a service or a product. You want to, like, from a basic level, sell more product or sell more services. So in order to do that, you need to understand as many people in the world as possible. So yeah, like I find initiatives a struggle because often then, we get into the problems of, we're focused on KPIs, so it's any means necessary. Like, let's make sure that the cleaners are all black. And that's enough tick. Like, look at our workplace diversity. That doesn't mean fuck all. Sorry. But yeah, like that's the reality. In our workplace, we hire based on the need and the talent, and we put things in place that remove unconscious bias, because we all have unconscious bias. It's not just a white middle-class male thing, as everybody speaks about. Every single person in this room has a bias towards certain things based on their upbringing. So how can you remove that as much as possible to find the right person? Of course, because of the work we do, we need people who may have lived experiences within the communities that we care about and focus on, of course, so that's important. But yeah, I'd just say that the best initiatives are the ones that understand that bias is innate and removes the chance of having bias in hiring practices.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge you slightly.
That's the good thing about
I sit on the periphery of the media and advertising industry as opposed to inside. So our members work in the industry. And while I agree with you to a certain extent, I know that from looking at the experience of our members, initiatives have worked, but not measuring them on KPIs. So for instance, if they're employee resource group, so that's a huge thing. They were really born out of, after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, like there was a huge boom of ERGs, and members actually flocked to MIFA because they were called to do that particular emotional labour, setting up these groups when they weren't from a D&I perspective. However, after they were set up, they benefited people of colour, but not just people of colour, just different groups. So, if you're neurodiverse, if you're, you're LGBTQ or, gender, disability, etc. So I think where those kind of initiatives are born and they actually support employees internally and actually create that culture that's not necessarily there already, I think that's when it's really a driver of change. But I think when it becomes when it becomes something like a KPI, or actually the employees are trying to create that change without the buy-in of senior leaders, that's when it becomes a problem. Because I think if you're creating this community for to connect with other people, great. But I think if you're doing the work that the company should be doing, that's when it gets a little bit messy. And that's what the grey area is. But I think don't discount initiatives in that sense, because you actually meet people that have similar lived experiences with you. You can actually find mentors, coaches, sponsors within those spaces that will advocate for you internally, as opposed to being on that journey alone or feeling like you're the only one in your organisation.
Can I just... This is what this is what panels should be about, though. Like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of panels where everyone's like, yeah, just to build on that point. Like, I want to be challenged, and I think you make a really good point. I guess like the only issue is in what you said, which is like in ERGs, employer resource groups, like you're getting people to do their day job, and then after their day job do something which is emotionally taxing with no extra money. And that's my problem. Like it's the longevity of the reality. So it might help that one person to like.
Sorry, did you want?
Oh yeah, let's do
Yeah, back and
Go
forth.
back and forth. It's like a radio set.
Yeah, I agree with you, but that's why it's really important to get this senior buy-in, and there has to be budget behind those ERGs. It can't just be a therapy session where like groups are coming together to speak about their challenges, because that's not the purpose of them. They're actually coming together to create that community, but actually they have to have that support of senior leaders, because ultimately, if there's a huge problem internally, you want that ERG to make a segue to create a policy change, for instance, but then it has to have the back from like HR, senior leaders, and there has to be budget. So if they're putting on events for Black History Month, South Asian Heritage Month, there has to be budget. I know there is a company, I'm not going to name them, but they actually, no, I'm not going to name them, but it's actually positive. There was a percentage increase in their salary for doing this particular work, and I think more companies need to start doing that.
To add to all of this, to echo, no, joking. I think I agree with both of your points. I feel like the key thing is collaboration, right? Like it can't be coming just from the top people and then you must do what we're telling you to do. It's a collaboration, but also then compensating people for their time. I think I'll give you an example. I worked for a company, I've got two of my ex-colleagues here as well. I worked for a company that was owned by a massive, massive corporation. And I was working there at the time of like 2020, so after George Floyd's murder. And after that, I remember there was 4 people in the management team, and each individual person didn't speak to each other, but they all came. This was obviously while we were doing remote working. They all came and spoke to me because I was the most vocal like person of color within the team, and I'm from Black heritage. So I say obviously, I'm from Black heritage. So they'd all come to me individually and basically ask me to tell them like what do we do? What do we have to do now that this has happened? And it was such a struggle for me because I wanted to do something, because I didn't want us to just be that company that sat around and do nothing. But at the same time, I was like, all of you are coming and asking me to do something when actually I've constantly asked you for a promotion, so I'm sitting at the table with you.
Yeah.
It was genuinely one of the most stressful times of my life, because every single person was asking me for something, to the point where I then told them, I didn't ask, I told them I'm taking 2 days off and this isn't even part of my holiday. I'm taking 2 days off, don't talk to me. So I did that, and on my first or second day off, one of the management team, I really wish she was in the room because she was actually speaking on another panel. One of the management team called me, knowing it was my day off, and cried down the phone to me about her white privilege, and basically was asking me to sense check a caption for the post. What's funny is that I'm also neurodiverse, so people crying is very stressful for me anyway. I'm not very good at that. But that was the tipping point of me leaving that company and starting my own. But I remember coming away from that and thinking, this is something that's constantly happened to me in companies, where the management team is constantly asking me as a junior person who's, I'm sure, probably getting paid like a quarter of or less of their salary, constantly asking me for my emotional labor, for my time, for my expertise, for my experiences that they haven't lived. But at no point have they ever invited me to the table where they're making these decisions, when actually clearly I should be at the table, because actually you've just exhibited the fact that none of you know what I know. And I think that's the key here. Like if we're going to be doing these initiatives and all of these things, it must be a collaborative process. And again, we're going to go into hiring later, but like there needs to be people at the top that actually have some level of those lived experiences. I think even if it's, obviously you can't tick every minority box within a leadership team. However, I think minorities kind of get minorities, and you understand how it feels to be an other in a room. If you've never felt like that, then it's very difficult for you to properly put something together that is gonna impact the people that you're trying to impact. So I think, yeah, the key is collaboration, but also well, I can never say that word.
Remuneration.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's key. But what I will say as well, and I feel like everyone in this panel will agree with me, it's a real shame how that this isn't a packed room, because actually I think this is such an important conversation to have. And No, 100%. Main stage next year. Main stage next year, because as I say, my ex-managers were all here. I've seen them. And those are the kind of people that should be in this room, because I'm 100% sure that everyone in this room is fully aligned with everything we're saying.
Yeah.
When actually it should be the people that can't be bothered to have these conversations that should be in the audience.
And it's so interesting you say that, because I also think that sometimes as a minority, it's almost like as soon as anything happens like major in the world in cultural significance, they turn around to us and they're like, well, you must know. It's like, mate, I've just come to work. I'm clocking in and clocking out.
They also assume that you know everything about everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not every. To be fair, I tick a lot of minority boxes, but I'm not every minority.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, even then, like, it's actually understanding the nuances of different community groups. Like, I think I'm mixed race. I'm half black, half Irish. But I think a lot of people come to me for the whole lived black experience.
Yeah.
I'm mixed race. I've had a different experience to people who are black. There's different levels of, like, you know, if you're dark skin, if you're light skin, whatever. And also, again, just having a few black colleagues, going back to that same company, I think there was four of us, yeah. One of my black colleagues is over there. But yeah, there was like, I think there was two mixed race people, two black people. And I remember them saying, oh, you know, but we've got a bunch of black people. I said, yeah, all of us have been to university.
Yeah.
Like that in itself is a level of privilege, that we've all been to university. That, you know, like, we all came from different jobs. This wasn't our first job. And I think it is understanding the nuances of different communities, again, rather than just being like, oh, they're black, oh, they're Muslim, we'll just give them a little Ramadan thing. We'll give them a little pride party. No worries. Like,
throw them a bone, basically.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
and that's so interesting that it's not just a sense of, oh, they're diverse. It's like there is so many levels to it. There's so many different types of people. There's so many different experiences that I think people are just brushing over because it's easier to, is the honest answer.
And intersectionality as well. So I'm going to stop talking now. But yeah, and intersectionality, understanding that.
Okay, so we're just going to go swiftly on to the next point, which is how can organizations create and sustain a culture where diverse perspectives are not only welcome, but also integrated into decision-making processes? So essentially what you were saying earlier about how can we be part of the discussions?
This has got to be one of you three.
Yeah.
Go on and put it into English for me, go on. Put it into layman's terms, because I'm very thick.
So basically what it's trying to say is how can you sustain a culture of diversity and give people of colour or any, you know, sectors a voice?
I think the management is the key part of this. And listen, I started Kiss FM up as a pirate station and got it legalised by finding £3.5 million via PLC companies, EMAP, Virgin, Centurion Press, Cradley Print. And I come from Walworth Road, so I really do not come from money, believe me, I come from the other side. And so I learned ever so quickly about managing people and all the rest of it, because I went from having a pirate station with it was about 45 DJs to having a staff of 75 plus 75 DJs, and then that's without all the club runners and everything else. And the one thing that I learned throughout all of this is if you can, and you know, that you can imagine 150 people, that's every different age demographic, every different colour, I mean, it really was. We had gays, we had all the rest. I mean, you know, there's no, as long as you treat everybody as the same, and so to make them all feel part of a team that is going to go out there and kick the arse out of the world and bring the money home, so we all get paid and we all work as a team together. And that's what I do today. I don't do special initiatives for this, or we don't celebrate Black History Month, because we celebrate Black History every fucking day of the year, because we're playing the music. We celebrate all the way through. So we don't deal with all that stuff and going, oh well, if we're going to go Pride. We have people. We have 4 DJs that DJ at Pride every year.
Yeah.
But we don't make a massive thing about it. Hey, Terry Smith, Pride. We don't do it. It's just we just represent in all the different things. And I think that it's the management of all companies that actually dictate how you go. I went from being me running a pirate station to having Virgin, EMAP, Cradley Print, these very big powerful PLC companies come in and give Kiss FM the money to get us legal and to take us on, which we needed to do, otherwise we'd never done it. I then was like a bow, because the shit came through me from both ends. It was kind of from the big money people that sat on the board and all that stuff. They gave me shit about these DJs that didn't speak proper, and the DJs that didn't speak proper gave me shit about these big people with all their big money and not that. And so I'm learned over a 5-year period, because I was MD. Well, I started Kiss Up in 1985, and I sold out in 1998. I was there 13 years, working 7 days a week to make it successful. And I learned about this big, when I left, is when they came in and sacked Steve Jackson, one of the best black presenters you'll ever find, mad as a fucking hatter, absolutely off his trolley, but brilliant presenter. Him, Dave VJ, a whole raft of people, because they didn't fit in with the thing. And that taught me more about big businesses and not managing the actual company that you're running. And that's what everybody needs to get here, is manage the company you're running or what you're doing and make everybody feel special, make everyone, it's we're going into terms of kind of, there's this section, that section. I like to run things, me personally, where everybody is just as important and we all work together as a team, because if we don't all work together as a team, we're going to go fucking bankrupt and no one's going to have a job. And that's the truth of the matter. So everybody run together. Anyway. Is there any more you'll know?
No, that was amazing. No, I really, really love that response personally.
Excuse the swear if there's anybody of a very delicate nature out there. I know
this is a safe space, guys. No one's telling us.
Anybody else want to say?
Yeah,
okay,
that was amazing. Honestly,
Sorry.
that was really good. What role do leadership and management play in promoting and modeling inclusivity in the workplace? So, how can they set the tone for the support environment, and how can they support young people, particularly?
I personally think, and I'm just going to say a few things here, I personally think that my managers all are looking for the next thing that's happening, we've actually got one of the next things that's happening here doing video, because Kingsley here is one of the people that does videos. He actually does videos for My Soul, and we he is my nephew. Yeah. We found him at a very, very, very early age, and he's now doing top videos for big artists and big acts and stuff, and digi-learning, of course. But you're always looking out for that next thing to actually kind of entice and bring through. And I work in a talent type of thing. I work in a creative environment, which is great, because my business partner, who's boring as fuck, Martin, he's the one who knows how to read and write and does all the accounts. And Martin knows that he's fucking boring. But he's my business partner, and he's been my business partner for years. I trust him complicitly. He's the one that does all of the, make sure that, he keeps me out of prison, basically. Make sure that we pay our VAT, make sure that anything that I do. I read a book years ago, I'll just give you this little one. I read a book years ago from Richard Branson, and he said he never goes to a meeting without an accountant on one side and a lawyer on the other side, because between the two of them, he'll know whether he's going to go to jail or go into debt. And I always thought that was a really good one. So Martin Strivens, who's been my business partner, who's an accountant, and knows how to read and write and do PPL and PRS returns and all that crap, he's the one who does the boring shit. I'm the creative lovey, and I get to go out there, and I'm playing later on with Brandon Block in the main room. We're doing the final set, which you should be there. It's going to be a fucking blast. So that's always been my role, is to be the creative one and to actually nurture and bring on talent and type of give opportunities to people, whether it's in the music side or the young artist side. I mean, although we. Well, June Sapong is a great example. She got work experience via me at Kiss FM, and now look at her. I mean, same as Kevin, who was the one that found Jamiroquai. He came out of prison, got his first job being my club runner, and then he came to me 6 weeks later and went, "I've got this new artist I found. Yeah, I've got." So I said, okay, let's have a listen. So, excuse me. So he put this back then. This is going back when we had dub DATs. So it's DAT tapes, which was digital cassettes, basically. And he put it in, and I said, my goodness, that's very good. I said, who is he? He said, he's some little skateboarder from Acton. He said, he's a great... So I said, what's his name? He said, his name's never going to make it. His name's Jamiroquai. He's never going to make it. So I said, we'll put it on the playlist. Let's put it on the playlist. So we put Jamiroquai on the playlist. And 2 weeks later, it got signed by Acid Jazz. And then he came back to me about 4 months after that, Kevin. And we're still friends today. I mean, we're kind of... And Kevin said, I've got to leave, Gordon. I said, why? I said, you can't leave. You're doing brilliant. Clubs are wicked, you know. So we all learnt parkour, but it's kind of, I said, you can't leave. It's wicked. And he said, no. He said, I've got to. So I said, why? He said, I've got that act, Jamiroquai. He said, I've got him an 8-album deal with Sony. I mean, fucking get out that door now. Go. And that's what I'm lucky. I'm in the creative industry, and I've run a team of people that I pick because one bad apple will fuck your whole cart up. And that's the honest truth. And it's a really old saying, but I pick people that will get on with people. And if not, I'll put the time into finding out why they don't get on to make it so they do get on. And just so that we can move that whole, it's a force, it's a family, it's a team, it's a gang, it's a whatever. But if we're working together, we're together as a team, and we're going to fuck the rest of the world. And that's basically, there's one of my team talks. And that's how we feel. And it doesn't matter how you look, whether you're ugly, whether you're beautiful, whether you're young, tall, pretty, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter, any of that. If you're there and you're doing that role and you're part of that team, then fuck it, it's us against the world. And that's how we kind of run things with, with management and stuff like that. We're always, all of us, looking for new things. And there'll always be moans and groans that you have to deal with. Cut that bit out about George Kay. But there'll always be moans and groans. But overall, you've got to mould a team of people. If just because they don't look the same colour or the same likeness or the same height or whatever, have the same beliefs in that team, in that company, and move that forward. And that's how I feel about life anyway. Does anybody else want to have a go? Bit bored of this voice now.
Pretty iconic, to be honest. So,
I think we can take a lot from the music and entertainment industry and sport industry in general, because most of the time you have to dissolve the ego, because things are changing so much that you need to stay hot on the press as to what is the next thing. And I think within the advertising media industry, from my experience, that's the problem, because the big execs don't dissolve the ego. They think they know best. They've been in the industry for 20 years, so we're gonna make this campaign because the last one we did won an award. But consumers don't think that way. They don't ever think that way. And I always say once you work a day in advertising, you can never engage advertising as a consumer again, because you're thinking who was the agency behind that advert, or how much was the budget, or you're thinking completely different. People who are just engaging in advertising don't think that way. So it becomes really paramount to start to engage with your target audience more frequently, and stay hungry and stay passionate about the industry you're in, to understand how genuine, real consumers actually want to see the industry progress, so that you can stay hungry and stop thinking that you know everything. So that's what I'd add.
I totally agree with you. One funny story, right? So there I was running Kiss FM as a pirate, and we'd done these things called Kiss in Ibiza. This is before it was just after Nicky Holloway found ecstasy and drugs and house music. And so it was all a pretty new thing. So we all went over there for one of these Kiss in Ibizas that we'd done. This is when we were still a pirate. And these two guys fucking hounded me from the time I got there till the time I left, going, if you ever want any advertising done, come and see us. I'll sort you out. We work doing advertising. That's what we do. So, and I was like, who are these people? They're driving me mad. Anyway, we get back to London, and they keep, every now and again they'll send me a letter. This is before emails and shit like that. This is before computers, when computers had little green numbers. And so they kept on and on. In the end, I said to Rosie, who was my PA, I said, just track them down and just find, if we're going to... Anyway, she came back to me, she said, you might want to talk to them, but I don't think they're going to want to do flyers for the clubs that we're doing. So I said, why? She went, well, I'll get them to introduce themselves to you. Anyway, in the meantime, there's the opportunity to go for a legal license. So we started preparing this application, which was a massive, great big application. It had 10 volumes and stuff like that. And Rosie, my PA, she organised a meeting with these two guys, Tom and Walt. Thought nothing of it. Tom and Walt came in, they went, we'd love to do the advertising for you. I said, well, what's your background? What other flyers have you done? What other They went, no, we work for Abbott Mead Vickers, BBDO. So that at that time meant nothing to me. They then took me to their advertising office where these are the two guys that done all of the Guinness ones with the horses. These are the two guys that they'd won more pencils and stuff like that. They've been working on all this big stuff. And they're the ones that came to us and said, look, if you advertise with us, we'll put your name on everybody's lips. We'll put the name KISS on everybody's lips. And from that one sentence, I went, I really should have listened to you back in Ibiza, shouldn't I? Anyway, so we got them. So the big day turned up where the KISS had got the license and the two big advertising agencies were going to go against each other. So it's Saatchi, who came down to the Muse that we used to be in and covered the whole front of it in blow-up lips, and Abbott Mead Vickers BBDO, Tom and Walt, who I didn't realise who the hell they were, which is one of my biggest lessons in listening to everybody that comes up and talks to you and kind of pursuing it. Anyway, so we go to them, and everybody in the room had a black Gucci suit on. Now, they knew that I love black Gucci suits, and every one of them had black Gucci suits on. They'd done this presentation. Well, they won the account. I mean, it was just when KISS launched, they had people sitting on the tube underneath these posters, with headphones on really loud, dancing and everything else. And above it said, if you want to know what they're listening to, tune in to KISS. And they had all these different things. They just done the most amazing advertising thing. And then we drove into Saatchi, and it was rubbish. It was absolutely rubbish compared to what they'd done. And the whole point of this is pursue people. Don't just because you meet them in a drug-filled Ibiza holiday or something like that. Always pursue, because young talent is out there. And those guys, they'd already proved themselves, but they had this interest, but I just didn't listen enough. And it was a big lesson to me. I could have had some fucking wicked flyers if only I'd have listened to them a long, long time ago. But yeah, so anyway, I'll shut up.
I think we've reached
Somebody
time.
take
Is that right? Yeah, unfortunately we have reached time today. However, I feel like with the discussions that we have had, they were very eye-opening. It was really interesting to see different point of views. And again, it's to more conversations like this, opening up the space, opening up these kind of thought processes so that we can start moving in the right direction. So I just want to thank everyone on stage today for your insights. So thank you so much. And yeah, everyone here who is Digital Learning, definitely reach out to Lisa and get your network, build it up, and build up everything that you know. And it's who you know, not what you know. Yeah. Thank you so much.
We want to say a huge thank you for showing up. And as Chloe said, we know that you guys are the ones that show up. And actually, you don't even need to hear this because you know. So go and report back to MadFest and tell the senior team, Dan and Ian, that next year this needs to be on the main stage. And it will be, because I think we've proved that there is a need for this as well, and the conversation is real. And also we need to educate, especially those senior people. You can give me their names after and I can start working on that. I want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone, because we pulled this together in like 3 weeks. It wasn't the easiest task. I couldn't have done it without Sadia. Sadia has helped me so much. She heads up our youth ambassador team. I'm very proud of her, and I'm so happy that she's been part of our DigiLearning journey, and she's part of our family. And I'm going to let her close because she is the best, and she's amazing.
You've put me on the spot. I think today has been quite difficult for me because I have related to a lot of the things that you have mentioned to me about, and I do feel a bit uncomfortable in certain spaces. But I think after the coaching session that we had from Rebecca and Sarah, I was like, you just got to embrace who you are and don't worry too much because you need to take up more spaces. So thank you, everybody, for being such an amazing audience. Shout out to all of our hosts. So we've had, I can't remember the order now, but we had Romario, we had Jonathan, Ali, Bushra, who's not here, Liba, and is that everyone? I think that's everybody, yeah. So thank you so much. And yeah, that's it. Thank you to all of our speakers as well and panelists. So, yeah, that's it.